Chapter 451. It was hard to imagine that this girl, who called herself Fathead Fish, wouldn't care about anything else. She started off with a bunch of beeps. Luo Nin was stunned for a moment when faced with such a familiar person. He politely got up and touched Bai Yu's hand. He introduced himself, Luo Nan. Hello. We know each other now. As she spoke, Bai Yu sat in the seat across from Luo Nan. She giggled as she looked at him. Her eyes seemed to be shining. How long have you known Siener? I know all of Siener's friends, but I've never seen you before. I'm a student at Acumen College. I used to be at 6 High. I also used to be at 6 High. Bai Yu suddenly became excited. It's fate. But how come we've never met before? Luo Nan laughed. Do you know Mohan? I'm her cousin. Henin's cousin? Isn't that a little fatty called Mo Peng? I'm the other one. Oh, what a coincidence. I'm also a transfer student. I transferred to Xiqing District 2 years ago for the sake of making my debut. But you should be pretty low-key in 6 High, right? Yeah, I don't really come out to play. Bai Yu's heart was filled with curiosity. She was a young girl driven by curiosity. She didn't have any scheming thoughts. Luonan suddenly felt that Yu Qin's circle of friends was pretty good. She didn't hate anyone other than her blood-related older brother. It was said to judge people by their friends. Just from this point alone, Yu Qin was quite good. In any case, the perfect plan was ruined. There was still some time before Mo Ya's treat. Luo Nan was bored, so he chatted to pass the time. You just mentioned making your debut. Are you an artist? Humph. Bai Yu made a complicated yet adorable gesture. BHD's youngest, Bai Yu, will be joining us. Seeing Luo Nan's stupidly lack of reaction, Bai Yu's smiling face collapsed. I knew it. You don't belong to my fan club. Of course, I don't have many fans to begin with. Luo Nan was a bit embarrassed. Sorry, I really don't understand this. BHD is the name of the group? That's right, Bobblehead. But you just need to remember to shake your head, doll. The name is easy to remember, but it's still the 18th line. As she spoke, Bai Yu shook her head. Her movements matched her cute aura perfectly, and her body swayed rhythmically. However, Luo Nan's gaze accidentally swept over her chest, which was completely incompatible with her age. This was because the trench coat had opened up after sitting down, and the thin layer of fabric inside could not hide the full curves. Acting like this at such a young age was simply against the rules. Luo Nan didn't have any crooked thoughts, but he was a bit embarrassed. He hurriedly averted his gaze and took the initiative to speak in order to conceal it. You and Yu Qin came out to watch the parade? Bai Yu waved her finger. Hey, although we are an unknown, we are still a duo that debuted. Do you see that? In the middle of the square, the scenery will be built in the afternoon. That will be our stage. Don't forget to help us tonight. As she spoke, she sighed again. We can't talk for too long. I still have to meet up with my sisters in a while to practice more. To the square. This sentence inexplicably made Bai Yu laugh out loud. She burst out in laughter and almost threw her glasses off her nose bridge. It was on this building. The company is worried about traffic jams, so they rented a floor for practice. When rehearsals begin, we can use the underground passageway to go backstage. Rented a floor? Luo Nan was a bit shocked. He remembered that this was a large office building that occupied a large area. How much would it cost to rent it for a day? For an unknown girl group like BHD, would the cost of a night's performance be even a fraction of this? Bai Yu understood Luo Nan's thoughts and said, Our company is very large. There are 5 or 6 groups participating tonight. There are even big singers and big singers. Luo Nan grunted and asked casually, Who is it? Bai Yu was about to answer when hurried footsteps and a deep male voice approached at the same time. Doll. Oh my. Bai Yu's first reaction was to jump up and lean against the previous table, but she didn't have the time to do so. Someone blocked her way. The person that appeared on the walkway was a man in formal attire. He was roughly 30 years old, had a straight face, and had a serious expression. He faced Bai Yu directly. You said that you came to pick up the teacher. Where's the teacher? That's sit down. Are you afraid that people won't see you? The man in formal attire scolded in a low voice and indicated for Bai Yu to sit down. He sat down as well, just in front of Luo Nan. Only now did he cast his gaze towards Luo Nan. The meaning of scrutiny was extremely thick, and his thick eyebrows were knotted together. Your friend? Dating? How is that possible? Bayu nearly jumped up again, but she retreated in defeat under the gaze of the man in formal attire. She could only speak pitifully. Brother Jing, you've misunderstood. This is my best friend's husband. Husband my ass. Chatting with Bayu was very relaxing, but being entangled with her was boring. Luo then wanted to communicate with this guardian-like man. But before he could get up, he noticed that Yu Qin had returned from the restroom. She didn't see Bayu when she returned to her seat and looked around blankly. Bayu waved at her fiercely. She was mindful of the surrounding environment, so she secretly shouted, Sienna, don't get lost. Over here. Yu Qin turned her head when she heard this. She was separated by an aisle and saw that Bayu was actually sitting together with Luo Nan. She was immediately stupefied. Bayu shouted at her, hurry up and come claim your boyfriend. Don't let brother Jing misunderstand. Aren't we together? Luo Nan lowered his head to look at the number of cups on the table. He knew that this fathead fish was probably in a real tragedy. Brother Jing clearly saw through this, but he didn't say anything. His gaze shifted back and forth between Luo Nan and Yu Qin. He seemed to be deep in thought. Yu Qin hesitated for 2 seconds. In the end, she walked over and stood by the table. She quietly shot a glance at Luo Nan during this process. Then she slightly lowered her head. She was probably trying to find a balance between respect and calmness. But unfortunately, she failed. Her slightly fast heartbeat, her controlled breathing, her nervous system's inhibition and counterinhibition. Every detail exposed her nervous state of mind. Bayu wouldn't be able to see through this, but the man in formal attire across from her would probably be able to see some clues. But then again, this man gave Luo Nin a strange feeling. Luo Nin thought for a bit and took advantage of the situation to get up. He faced Yu Qin and said, you can sit inside. This is... Luo Nin was asking Bayu, but Yu Qin, who was still standing there without moving, quivered. She took half a step forward and said softly, this is Mingtang Culture's manager, Mr. Hai Jing. Hai Jing? Luo Nin was curious. Before Luo Nan could figure out, Hai Jing's serious face relaxed from astonishment and bewilderment. In the end, it transformed into a carefree smile. Nanster, is that you? Chapter 452. Upon closer inspection, the title was just a knock on the door. The true key was the smile on Hai Jing's face. He opened his mouth wide and revealed his teeth. His unrestrained and smooth expression instantly broke through the solemn temperament of his formal attire. It caused the clean face before Luo Nan's eyes to overlap with a large face with sideburns. Hai Jing, the first lead singer of Mountain Stream, the band Mo you belonged to. That was 6 years ago. Mo was still in her 3rd year of high school at the time. She had just joined the band and obtained the position of melody guitarist with her skillful technique. Luo Nin was just a brat who wasn't even 10 years old. He had yet to start researching formatting theory. In today's sense, life had yet to begin. However, Luo Nin still had some impressions in his chaotic and blurry memories. Hai Jing, the lead singer of the band at the time, had a resounding and clear voice. It could be said that he had a gorgeous voice. He was the type that Luo Nin could accept in a noisy and chaotic underground rock circle. It could be said that the entire Mountain Stream band style was built around this lead singer. Moya's gorgeous solo performance, known as the Palace on Strings, brought out the best in Luo Nan's style. Many times they would be called low-level, vulgar, and trendy dogs in the circle because of this. Moya had cried because of this. The one who had hugged and comforted her back then was Hai Jing. Luo Nan had always been conservative. This kind of intimate and caring attitude was already beyond his expectations. So Luo Nan had the impression that Hai Jing had been a candidate for brother-in-law for quite some time. But later, this potential brother-in-law suddenly disappeared from her memory. TSK, the human memory mechanism, was really strange. A small trigger was able to make the already gray and gray images regain color and flow. Luo Nan was immersed in his memories. He seemed to have returned to that ignorant and clean world. There were some subtle changes in his emotions. He subconsciously laughed. Brother Jing, Long time no see. You're actually a manager now. Hai Jing laughed. You came to see Mo Ya's performance? She said she would treat me to lunch. Huh? Then thank me. Hai Jing pointed at his own nose. I was the one who booked the restaurant. Didn't you know? Mo Ya and the others just signed a 2-year contract with Mingtang. I just so happen to be in charge of today's performance. You signed a contract? Luo Nan was a bit embarrassed. He really didn't know. Just a week ago, they performed well at the Manching Music Festival, and the company was optimistic about their prospects. Has Mo you been hiding outside for the past few days? Hee, I've really offended my aunt. Hai Jing's deep understanding of Mo you made Luo Nan vaguely believe that Mo you had always been here for the past few years. Hai Jing nodded. He pondered for a moment, as if he was considering something. In the end, he pointed upwards. Mo Ya and the others are rehearsing now. They are in the same place as Doll and the others. Do you want to go and take a look? Before Luo Nan could respond, Baiyu was already dumbstruck. Why? Why can't I invite Qin Xian or? Hai Jing glanced at her. Shangshi's contract is a management contract, while yours is a training contract. That is the difference. Baiyu was immediately defeated, but then she saw that Luo Nan was looking in the direction of Hai Jing's finger. Luo Nan had a very focused appearance, and she couldn't help but spit. Hey, there are still over 10 floors. Of course, Luo Nan wouldn't say that he had locked onto Mo Ya's position through his mental senses. He just nodded and smiled at Baiyu before asking Hai Jing, is it convenient? Hai Jing seemed to have thought things through. This is Shangshi's first performance since they transformed from an underground band. The scene tonight will be huge. I'm worried that they'll be nervous. Having a family nearby will certainly help. I heard that it's a scale of several 100,000 people. The company estimates that it can reach 1 million people at its peak. Rock bands naturally have an advantage in this kind of occasion. It's an excellent opportunity. 1 million people. Luo Nan clicked his tongue. Emoya, that fellow. She really went wherever there was excitement. But was their band already at the level where they could perform in public at a large-scale event with 1 million people? How about this? Touch me with your wristband, and I'll give you the authority. Since the security around the plaza has been upgraded, we can only use a face-to-face invitation to increase the authority. Luckily, I still have a spot on my side. Doll, what are you doing? Baiyu withdrew her finger and had an innocent expression. Brother Jing, are you trying to ruin their date? Are you trying to break up an affectionate couple? This wasn't the end. Luo Nan rolled his eyes. Next to him, Yuqin took a quiet breath. She raised the teapot and poured tea for Luo Nan. Her demeanor was refined and gentle, and it matched perfectly with Baiyu. Yuqin's appearance was definitely because she still had lingering fears from the conflict last time. She was deliberately acting low and small. Luo Nan felt that it was pointless. He waved his hand and was about to speak, but Hai Jing spoke first. 1 is a hire. 2 is also a hire. It just so happens that the company is short on manpower right now. I'll just take in 2 temporary workers. Brother Jing, you have a lot of knowledge. Baiyu gasped in admiration. She gave Hai Jing a thumbs up and winked at Yuqin. Yuqin forced a smile and took another deep breath. She stole a glance at Luo Nan and remained silent. Hai Jing quickly shared the authority with them. Then he got up and said, let's not waste time. Let's go back. I'll tell you guys about the things to take note of on the way. Hey, doll, you're not done yet? Baiyu raised her head and revealed a careful smile. Brother Jing, did you forget about the teacher? Hai Jing was a bit startled. He was a bit embarrassed under the gazes of Luo Nan and the other 2. He slapped his forehead and sat back down. I almost forgot. I'm going to make a phone call. The call connected a few seconds later. Then he hung up. I've already arrived. I've used up my authority. Baiyu, bring out yours. It seems that this is the reason for me to approve your leave, right? Baiyu giggled. She stretched her neck to size up the entrance. I don't see anyone. Did you guys drink too much again? If we get the smell of alcohol from our bodies, Brother Jing, you'll have to help us explain to the company. It could be seen that Hai Jing had a close relationship with Baiyu and the other artists. Work was work. Friendship was friendship. Hai Jing could clearly distinguish between the 2 and complement each other. It seemed that he was doing quite well as an agent. However, it was a pity that the loud and clear lead singer of Mountain Creek would probably never be able to come back. Luo Nan was a bit lost in thought, but he was soon awakened by a stimulus. His brows furrowed. Baiyu had already locked onto her target. She's coming. She's coming. Teacher, over here. Luo Nan turned his head and saw a woman around 30 years old walking over. She wore no makeup, but her slightly brown skin was extremely lustrous. It didn't give off a dark feeling. She wore a white, long-sleeved t-shirt with a jacket draped over her shoulder. She wore dark blue bloomers paired with nude high heels. She was dressed to the point of being a complete mess. She looked very confident and at ease, but in essence. Hai Jing stood up to greet her. He called her teacher, but he didn't mention her name. It sounded a bit awkward. Baiyu also chuckled as she leaned over. She hugged the person across the reading table. Teacher, it's been a week. You must teach me how to take care of my skin this time. All right, let me introduce you. Baiyu enthusiastically introduced them. These two are. There's no need for introductions. I've met them before. Yuqin had already stood up. She bowed and greeted the person. Hello, Teacher Cat Eyes. You still remember my name? How thoughtful. The person had a subtle smile on her lips. Her gaze didn't linger on Yuqin. Instead, she took the opportunity to look at Luo Nan, who was slowly getting up. When their gazes met, her complicated smile finally blossomed. Hey boss, your new target? Luo Nan had a serious expression. Teacher Cat Eyes, don't joke with me. He could only respond like this. Otherwise, he would have no way of explaining things to Hai Jing and Baiyu. Hai Jing appeared to be quite shrewd, but Baiyu was already stupefied. You guys know each other? The boss behind the scenes of your teacher's studio is Luo Nan? It can't be. Luo Nan finally laughed, but his laugh was very powerless. I said it was just a joke. As for whether it was a joke or the cause and effect, Cat Eyes, take care of it for me first. The casual and confident-looking woman before him was none other than Cat Eyes. Her public identity was that of a dance teacher. In the inner world, she was a registered member of the Ability User Society. She was a psychic sensing awakened, and her most proficient ability was long-range perception. However, from Luo Nan's perspective, this female awakened, who was in the prime of her life, had the most significant attribute. She was a believer on the staff level under his formatting theory. She was a component of a large production line that provided him with an unending supply of soul strength. Cat Eyes had not met Luo Nan since the incident at Aurora Cloud City. However, the connection between them was much more frequent than before. They continued to break in. Luo Nan took the initiative. He didn't care much. Cat Eyes was completely passive. She thought quite a bit. Over a dozen days passed. Whether Cat Eyes was happy or not, she began to get used to the existence of a boss. This little bastard didn't sign a contract. He didn't pay her wages. He didn't give her any chance to leave. A staff member? A slave? The only thing that made Cat Eyes rejoice over was that this boss, Luo Nan, was quite undisciplined in his management. Luo Nan generally wouldn't give her trouble. Even if he did, the difficulty wasn't too high. Cat Eyes didn't want to change this. So when her emotions stabilized, she maintained this state of interaction with Luo Nan. She didn't give Luo Nan any trouble. He and I've been practicing dancing recently. He's a guy who really knows how to make bets. I lost, so I changed the way I address him. As she spoke, she shot a glance at Yuqin. Yuqin cleverly lowered her eyelids. She acted as if she didn't see or hear anything. Hai Jing laughed. So that's how it is. Baiyu asked in a silly manner. What kind of bet? Bet on your life, or something like that. Cat Eyes laughed as she stroked Baiyu's face. Let's go. From the moment we meet, time starts. Pay by the minute. The awkward conversation came to an end. Cat Eyes obtained permission from Baiyu. The group immediately followed Hai Jing. They left the library and entered the private elevator of the building. After swiping the permission, the elevator locked onto the floor and went up automatically. Hai Jing made arrangements in the elevator. Teacher and Baiyu will go to the practice room. Nanster and Yuqin will first come with me to change their nameplates. Sign a temporary contract as well. This way, you will have the status of staff member. You won't be too conspicuous. It will be more convenient to enter and exit. So complicated. Buy you side a little. Luonan expressed his thanks. Sorry for the trouble, Brother Jing. It's nothing. You guys coming is the same as helping me. Haha, don't worry. You won't get tired even if there's work. Chapter 453. The door to the practice room opened a crack, and the scattered notes floated out. Under the guidance of the bass, the clear chords of the guitar streaked through 2 bars before breaking off. Then came the sound of discussion. Look, the effect is better without plugging in. You're using an acoustic guitar in a 1,000,000-person venue? Aren't you trusting the organizer's equipment too much? The effect indoors and outdoors can't be compared. A small venue and a large venue are 2 different things. The acoustic guitar plan is too radical. I don't approve of it, but we need to highlight the harmonies wrong. We need to ignite the atmosphere. We can't ruin the entire song for the sake of 2 bars of harmonies. Don't argue for now. Let's find a feeling. Let's try a different amplifier. Then came a series of chaotic noises. When the notes floated out once more, harmony was added in the room. But it didn't even last a bar before breaking off again. Arguments arose once more. Luonan laughed and shook his head. Then he closed the door, not touching the restless and trembling atmosphere inside. He turned to look at Hai Jing behind him. They're really nervous. Hai Jing was a bit surprised. We're not going in. We're not going in. I'm afraid, Mo, you will smash us with her guitar. Not yet, but it's hard to say for the others. Hai Jing touched the door handle and gave up. Then let's wait for the practice to end. After all, they're an underground band. Their nature has changed after signing with Mingtang culture. Right now is their period of transformation. It's not wrong to be nervous. Did they sign a contract or personal relationships? In other words, they'll pay more attention to commercial development, right? Yes, the trend. Hai Jing let out a light breath. I don't know if bringing them out from the underground circle is a good or bad thing. With Emoya, his cousin who was obsessed with bands around, Luonan knew a few things about the underground circle no matter how much he immersed himself in his own world. Signing with an underground band was a relatively sensitive topic. Many bands looked forward to signing a contract with a management company or a music company. They wanted to walk from the underground to the surface. But the traditional style of buying records but not selling their bodies and the habit of despising the trend was still very powerful. It would be fine if they really soared to the top, but the worst thing was that they would be rejected by the underground circle and the pop circle at the same time. Many bands would collapse at this stage. It was just like the awakening of supernatural powers. If they succeeded, everything would be fine, but if they failed, they would be stuck at the edge of 2 worlds. Forget about the pressure from the outside world. Just the confusion about where they stood was enough to make them suffer. Luonan shook his head. A sliver of heaven, a sliver of earth. Hai Jing chuckled when he saw Luonan's appearance. He rubbed Luonan's head in passing. Little fellow, when did you become so mature? Luonan was stupefied. Hai Jing was a bit embarrassed when she saw Luonan's expression. Don't mind me. My hand slipped. It's okay. You're the big brother. Luonan didn't care at all. I remember calling you uncle at the very beginning. You had a beer back then. Aya, you still remember. Hai Jing grinned and pulled a bit of distance away from Luonan. He leaned against the opposite wall of the practice room and took out an exquisite box from his pocket. There were 3 e-cigarettes arranged neatly inside. He picked one up and put it in his mouth. His words were a bit unclear. Back then, you were really muddle-headed. You looked stupid. The temperature of his mouth triggered the switch of the e-cigarette as he spoke. There was a crackling sound, and the front of the e-cigarette was slightly red. Smoke rose in spirals. Luonan watched the red light on and off the front of the e-cigarette, and some memories from the depths of his brain resurfaced. Maybe. You even said that my surname shouldn't be Gong. I should be called Gong. If I don't ring, I won't ring. Then you splash your fruit juice on my face and extinguish the cigarette. Oh, that was my first time visiting your house. I stole a puff in the yard. Why'd I have to talk so much? So embarrassing. Hai Jing waved his hand. He stuck his head to the wall and forced his face to the ceiling. He looked like he didn't have the face to see anyone. Perhaps this was also called not being proper. Luonin was more familiar with this image compared to Hai Jing's well-dressed suit. He laughed again and said to Hai Jing, "There's no band that doesn't want to sign a contract. I don't know about Emoya. Mayan has always felt that the underground circle is too chaotic. If she knew that Emoya signed with a proper management company, she should be happy. The underground circle is chaotic. This circle isn't peaceful either." The e-cigarette in Hai Jing's mouth shook up and down. Mingtang culture is facing a change in its shares. It's a matter right now. Forget it. Let's not talk about this. Luo Nan felt a bit of empathy. Not being able to enter the circle of the awakened was one thing. Truly entering the inner world seemed to bring all sorts of troubles. Obsession underground. Troubles in the sky. None of them can be avoided. Okay, you've become a philosopher. Did something hasten your maturity? Luonin blinked and changed the topic. Brother Jing, you still quit smoking in the end. I haven't really smoked for the past 2 years. It's funny when I think about it. I can't quit no matter what when I'm singing. But once I stop singing, it's all over. Hai Jing's wristband vibrated at this time. He lowered his head to look at it. Then he straightened his body and removed the e-cigarette. Here comes the trouble. I'll take you to find a place to rest. There are quite a few empty rooms here. Wasting them is wasting them, but safety and privacy are guaranteed. Luonin nodded and followed. Hai Jing put the e-cigarette back into the box. He suddenly thought of something and waved the box. Oh, right. Thank your uncle for me. He was the one who recommended this Star Ember series to me. Luonin laughed without saying anything. But he suddenly remembered. Emoya had so many friends. Among the men, only Hai Jing was able to visit her home alone and enter her room. Perhaps this was the key reason why he mistook Hai Jing for his brother-in-law. Mistook. Mingtang culture was one of the organizers of this parade. Before the official performance, there were a multitude of matters to attend to. Hai Jing said that he was going to lead Luo Nan to find an empty room to rest in. But he hadn't taken a few steps when an urgent matter came pressing down on him. He needed to rush over immediately. Forget it. You go by yourself. Room 5627. Just turn around the corner at the end of the corridor. Hai Jing joked as he spoke. Don't worry about bumping into people. It's fine if you try one by one. Every practice room has its own privileges. You can't enter without authorization. Okay, go do what you need to do, Brother Jing. Hai Jing turned around and was about to leave when he remembered something. Oh, right. Your girlfriend is in room 5621. She's with Baiyu and the others. You can go there and take a stroll. With your friendship with Teacher Cat Eyes, she shouldn't kick you out. BHD's music style is more suited to the tastes of you youngsters. You made 3 mistakes in a single sentence. Should I correct you or not? In the end, Luo Nan could only accept it with a smile. Hai Jing wanted to rub Luo Nan's head, but he came to his senses in time. He placed a palm on Luo Nan's shoulder. Have fun this weekend, but you need to show some concern for your sister. Luo Nan looked pensive as he watched Hai Jing leave in a hurry. 5627. 5627. Luo Nan followed Hai Jing's instructions and found room 5627 in the corner. He was just about to reach his hand out to grab the door handle when he suddenly stopped. He raised his head to confirm the room number. 5627. That's right. There are no problems with the privileges. But why were the 2 people inside able to go in? And why were they having fun so much? The use of mental senses actually manifested here. Right now, there was only one thing he was conflicted over. Should he continue watching? Or should he continue watching? Luo Nan sighed outside the door. There was a saying in Hai Jing that was very true. The industry was very messy. Youngsters these days were quite knowledgeable. No one was a pure white lotus. Luo Nan had attended health classes before. Mo Pong would sometimes sneakily give him some indescribable materials and the like. Luo Nan was not lacking in concepts, but he had devoted himself to researching all sorts of theories since the age of 10. He worked every day and night. How could he have the leisure to delve into these things? He never expected that 16 years of emptiness would bring him this sort of high-level course in a single day of enlightenment. They should both be artists. The man was handsome, and the woman was beautiful. Though their clothes were in disarray, their makeup and grooming were extremely fashionable. It was hard for Luo Nan to avoid lingering on the body of the woman. Though he didn't approve of this sort of behavior in broad daylight, he had to admit that they were very good-looking. The woman's long hair covered half of her face. The contours of her face were slightly distorted due to the intense exercise. However, artists had innate conditions that were a cut above others. They also had strict body management, as well as the polishing of temperament and style. When they were released in the darkroom, they really did have a charm that stirred people's hearts. Stop! What in the world am I thinking? Luonan didn't know how long he stood at the door in a daze. Of course, he didn't enter in the end. Instead, he walked forward with quick steps. After walking for nearly 20 meters, he finally stood still in the middle of the hallway and let out a long breath. His lips hadn't even parted due to the fast exhalation of air. His lips trembled rapidly under the impact of the airflow, emitting a strange puffing sound. The restless air that was stuck in his chest dissipated a bit with this comical sound. Goo! The forceful choking sound of laughter was very clear in the hallway. At the same time the sound of laughter entered Luo Nan's ears, the door to the next room opened a crack to reveal by Yu's cute round face. What the hell? You're so conflicted just by entering the door? Luo Nan raised his head to look at the room, number 5621. This was BHD's practice room. What a coincidence. He turned his head to glance back. He had walked nearly 20 meters and was only 2 doors away from room 5627. After all, the practice rooms were very large. Bayu must have just gone through a round of practice. A thin layer of sweat covered her forehead, sticking to her hair. Her face was flushed red as well. Did you see your sister? You came here to visit me? That's right, your girlfriend is in there. Don't you know if she's my girlfriend or not? Luo Nan only realized the ambiguity when he said it. He laughed bitterly. She has a boyfriend. What's that Caucasian guy's name again? Turner. Bayu blurted out. Then she covered her mouth and shot a glance behind her. She turned her head to look at the 2 ends of the hallway. Only when she didn't see anyone did she let out a sigh of relief. Then she pushed open the door and walked out. She closed the door behind her and lowered her voice. Don't let Jingu hear you. He hates it when his artists lie. Luo Nan frowned as he watched Bayu walk out. Bayu had been practicing her dance in the room just now. She had even worn 10-centimeter high heels in order to imitate the scene of the performance to the greatest degree. Her well-developed body had grown a bit taller. When she stood together, she was taller than Luo Nan by 2 or 3 fingers. Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that Bayu was wearing a tight-fitting dance outfit. She was already drenched in sweat. The curve of her chest caused a gap to appear in her small, round collar. Her snowy white flesh shone in front of Luo Nan's eyes. He didn't know whether to look at her or turn his head. Chapter 454. It was probably the legendary goblins that got to their brains. Luo Nan wanted to smack his own head. He felt that he wouldn't be more embarrassed than he was right now if he were to fight with an extraordinary. Okay, this was an exaggeration. A moment of embarrassment was far from being comparable to a duel of life and death. Ever since he entered the inner world, everything he encountered was much more difficult than what he was facing now. Compared to the true predicament he faced, the current encounter was nothing more than a small stumble in adolescence. He had overcome even greater difficulties. There was no reason for him to shrink back now. No, there was no reason for him to be a slave to his desires. Luo Nan's mind fluctuated with a few thoughts, and he felt much better. He took a deep breath and maintained a steady tone of voice. Understand. Go back and practice. Where are you going? Did Brother Jing really arrange work for you? Before Luo Nan could think of a good reason, the sound of noisy footsteps could be heard from the other end of the corridor. A large group of people circled around the corner, room 5627, and walked over. The most eye-catching people in the crowd were the bodyguards with strong bodies in suits and leather shoes. They formed a dense layer around the perimeter. There were also service personnel with work nameplates hanging to the side. However, the most eye-catching person was a fashionably dressed woman in the deepest part of the crowd. She wore sunglasses, and her head was slightly raised. She was surrounded by people, and her aura grew more and more powerful. The spacious hallway became exceptionally narrow because of the arrival of this group of people. The wild mandarin ducks in room 5627 heard the noise. They tightly hugged each other from a negative distance. Under panic and stimulation, they secreted large amounts of dopamine, serotonin, estrogen, and so on. Their entire bodies responded, and they even confused the boundaries between pleasure and fear. Only now did Luo Nin discover that he had been paying attention to them all this time. This was really the result of seeing oneself clearly was often awkwardness. Awkwardness wasn't a poison. One wouldn't die from suffocation. Luo Nin thought that he was the only one who knew from beginning to end. At most, he would be able to research the information in private. This was a benefit brought to him by his ability. It was fine as long as he didn't get affected by it and reflected his desires into reality. Luo Nan's mental construction had just reached a certain level when he suddenly felt a tug. He turned his head to look and saw Bayu's taut face. She gave him a meaningful glance to get closer. Her body language was quite nervous. With Luo Nan's current attainments and body techniques, he obviously wouldn't be tugged by a little girl. But, seeing Bayu's expression, he took the opportunity to walk over, and the two of them stood against the wall. Bayu let out a sigh of relief. She then lowered her head and crossed her hands over her abdomen. Her posture was as proper as a flight attendant's. At this moment, a group of people happened to pass by. She immediately smiled and greeted them in a low but clear voice. Sister Wei Wei, Director Wu. Even with Luo Nan's eyesight, he wasn't able to see whether or not the powerful woman responded. Instead, a middle-aged man in his 50s spoke to Luo Nan's side. Don't loiter around outside. If you need to practice, go practice. The dense mass of people walked past. They made a right turn at the end of the corridor, breaking away from Luo Nan and Bayu's line of sight. However, Luo Nan's mental senses remained clairvoyant from beginning to end. At the corner was a semi-sealed passageway. The passageway was locked by a transparent electronic door. At the end of the passageway was a carved double door. Behind the door was a rather luxurious suite that could easily fit dozens of people. The group of people walked into the suite. Not long after, the service staff who had just followed them and hurriedly left, most likely having received the task. Seeing the service staff pass by, Bayu stuck out her tongue. I got caught. I have to get out of here. Hold on, who's that? Director Wu. She's the head of the company's artist department. Brother Jing's immediate superior. Of course, she's also our big boss. Bayu's eyes blinked as she spoke. It was as if she was telling Luo Nan that she was different from the boss she had won a bet with. Luo Nan's heartbeat sped up a bit when he was stared at by these eyes. Unfortunately, the scene of the ravine and snow-white muscles kept swaying in his mind. He did his best to rid himself of the effects of his hormones and try to chat normally. That Sister Wei Wei should be an artist as well. It looks like she's treated much better than you. How can that be the same? Huh? You don't know her? I'm not familiar with the entertainment circle. You really don't know her? What's there to show off? My heart suddenly feels better. Bayu clasped her hands together and made a gesture of thanking God. Then she happily explained to Luo Nan, that's the pillar of our Mingtang culture, Shi Wei. She's a standard A-list artist. She's quite famous in East Asia and Southeast Asia. Shi Wei, you don't have any impression? No, I can remember a bit. She debuted as a super pure and innocent celebrity. She seems to have successfully transformed her career. Her acting path is quite wide. There was a period of time when Mo Pong was very obsessed with her. He borrowed money from me to buy peripherals. Bai let out a long sigh. Peripherals? When we debuted, peripherals were half sold and half given away. Even so, we still accumulated half a warehouse. She's not like Sister Wei. Her position as the #1 sister in the company will be more or less stabilized in the next few years. Luo Nin paid attention to the situation in the room. He discovered that Shi Wei and the big boss of the artiste department, Director Wu, were talking on equal terms. She was even a bit stronger. Sure enough, she had the style of a #1 sister. She's even invited to stand on the stage for this sort of parade and assembly. Sister Wei's transformation was in the direction of public welfare. Plus, with her popularity, standing on the stage is more effective than us dancing for an entire night. Huh, that's weird. Sister Wei's schedule is famous for being tight. There's still 7 or 8 hours until the performance. Bayu's eyes shone brightly. Her eyes were lit up by curiosity. She had long forgotten about being caught red-handed. She lowered her head and operated her wristband. She checked the internet and even signaled Luo Nan to come over and enjoy the show. Sky Street, one of the largest gossip communities in East Asia. Their social media accounts are updated in real time. Even though it's annoying to be exposed here, honestly speaking, we still hope to see news about ourselves on there. It'll increase our exposure. Look, it's this. Fairy, she's secretly meeting a new lover. It looks like she was out on a date and got caught by the paparazzi. She's definitely here to hide. This sealed floor was indeed quiet. The paparazzi didn't have the authority to come here. But what the hell was Bayu excited about? Luonan finally understood. Bayu was older than him by half a year, but she was actually a little gossip bug. It was sad that she had chosen the enemy camp. Luonan was shaking his head in his mind when he suddenly discovered a new situation. He signaled for Bayu to open the door to the practice room behind him and push her inside. Someone's coming. Luonan let out a breath after dealing with the loose ends. He turned around and walked in the opposite direction. But he hadn't walked more than a few steps when he heard someone call out to him, "Hey, you over here." Luonan turned his head with a pure expression. "You called me?" The person who called out to Luonan was none other than Director Wu. He walked out from the sealed passageway with a slightly chubby young woman following by his side. The woman was talking to him. "It's better if I go by myself." "Don't. The reporters outside are like wolves and tigers. You've been with Little Wei for far too long. They all recognize you. Let someone else do the work of running errands." Director Wu scanned Luonan's face as he spoke. He felt that this young man's face was quite young and unfamiliar. He was a bit puzzled. "Which department are you from?" Luonan subconsciously replied, "I'm with Brother Jing." "Hi, Jing, right?" Director Wu's gaze swept over the nameplate on Luonan's chest, and he felt relieved. He signaled for Luonan to come over and instructed, "You and Assistant Meng exchange numbers. Remove the nameplate and go to Ruifeng building. Bring back the pre-ordered breakfast set. I've already trained you guys on how to hide from reporters. Be smart." There was no need to explain the cause and effect. Luonan couldn't refuse in this situation. Otherwise, he would be digging a hole for Haijing. He responded honestly, removed the nameplate, turned around, and left. Director Wu and Assistant Meng returned to the suite. Luonan quickly walked through the hallway, but just as he passed room 5621, a crack in the door of the practice room opened. Bayu poked her head out. "Oh, the refreshments of Ruifeng building. They're so damn expensive, and they don't have takeout service. I can only pick them up from their doorstep. But I heard that they're good for your looks. I really need to run errands this time." The girl had been eavesdropping through the crack in the door all this time. Luonan didn't care about running errands. Haijing was able to bring him in. Why couldn't he do something? He asked casually, "Do you want some? I'll give you some along the way." "There's no need for refreshments. I can't afford them." "Huh?" She turned around and said a few words into the room. A few seconds later, she poked her head out again. She blinked her eyes fiercely and did her best to charm. "Brother Luonan, come in for a bit, okay?" Luonan sighed and entered the room according to her words. For gazes fell upon him as soon as he entered the room. He recognized Cat Eyes and Yuqin. There were also 2 young girls who were a bit older than Bayu. They were undoubtedly the other 2 members of the BHD group. Haijing had mentioned before that one of them was Shui Yuan, who had the nickname of Housekeeper. The other was Clara, Barbie. As members of a girl group, their personas were quite distinct. The one who was drenched in sweat and had a white towel draped over her shoulder was frowning as she looked over. She was most likely Shui Yuan. She had a serious face, and her figure was the most well-proportioned and fit. As for Clara, she was undoubtedly the charming mixed-blood beauty. Her skin was as white as milk, and her looks were extremely high. Bayu giggled and clapped. Hurry up, hurry up. High-end free labor is only available once. Boss Luo is going to Ruifeng Road to pick up takeout. Anyone who wants to pick up something along the way, Hurry up and sign up. The floor is closed right now. If you miss this opportunity, you'll have no hope at all. Shredded radish? The charming Clara let out a low laugh. She was amorous, and she was much more mature than her age. She also casually created a new nickname for Luo Nan. Barbie. Doll. As the captain, Shui Yuan naturally opened her mouth to reprimand her team members for their impolite actions. But when the nicknames of these two were linked together, it was quite funny. Shui Yuan acted as if she didn't notice. She took the initiative to extend her hand. You must be student Luo. Hello. Luo Nan extended his hand in response, but he was slapped away by Cat Eyes, who had just walked over halfway. Cat Eyes didn't care about Luo Nan and Shui Yuan's awkwardness. She clapped her hands to attract everyone's attention. If we delay any longer, we'll miss breakfast time. The boss is running errands for Shui. It takes around half an hour for him to go back and forth to Ruifeng Building. The other takeout deliveries should arrive around this time as well. How about this? Everyone can order their own food and wait for the boss to come back to bring it up at the same time. No problems, right? Chapter 455. The group of people all rolled over in laughter. But these girls did not know how much complicated information was contained in Luo Nan and Cat Eye's conversation. They also did not know what sort of sharpness was hidden in their gazes. Luo Nan was drunk when faced with such a believer who was unconvinced and had a tendency to self-destruct. Shui Yuan, who was next to Luo Nan, thought of something. She suggested, let's first exchange numbers. We'll send our orders to student Luo to avoid mistakes and to avoid transferring again. Bai was the first to agree, but she turned around and revealed a fierce expression. If the private numbers of 3 future idols get out, you're dead for sure. Unfortunately, no matter how much she twisted her face, her adorable round face could only show cuteness. Luo Nan shrugged and extended his hand to exchange numbers with them. He also gained the friendship of the BHD girl group. He waved his hand, turned around, and walked out. You guys hurry up and order your food. Also, please pay attention to the type of food. Fast food and pastries are the best. I don't want to have to wait downstairs for a dozen or 20 minutes after coming back. Bai let out an ah, and expressed with extreme innocence. We're all obese. What about body management? Shui Yuan stared at her. Body management has already collapsed the moment you suggested it. But Captain, you didn't refute it. I'll take you guys to strengthen your training for 2 hours. Hypocrite. Pervert. Luo Nan had already opened the door to leave the BHD group's internal strife. At this time, the silent Yuqin walked up to him and whispered into his ear, Mr. Luo, let me go with you. Huh? No need, no need. Cat Eyes giggled as she hugged Yuqin's shoulder. She kissed her and firmly pressed her down. Right now he's burning hot. His head has a fever. It'll be better for him to go out by himself. You're the one with a fever, Luo Nan retorted. But when he saw Cat Eye's expression, he understood that something good had happened next door. It was impossible to hide it from her. In fact, Cat Eyes might have even seen his relatively straightforward reaction earlier on. Was it awkward? Of course it was. But his special relationship with Cat Eyes had more or less dispelled a portion of it. He just glared at her and opened the door. Cat Eyes suddenly said, I won't order a meal for you. You could just go to Auspicious Abundance Restaurant and receive a flowing stone set. It's simple and quick. Thank you, boss. As she spoke, Cat Eyes gave him a salute. Luo Nan turned his head, speechless for a time. He didn't know the market price of Ruifeng Restaurant, but from the look of fear on Bai Yu's face, he could tell how powerful the flowing stone was. Fortunately, he had just earned a large sum of money last night, so he had some confidence. In the end, he just waved his hand and walked out of the door. The elevator required them to pass by room 5627. Luo Nan noticed that the wild mandarin ducks were still inside. They were already neatly dressed, and they stuck to the door with one in front and one in back. They used the visual system of the door to observe the situation outside. They were at a loss as to whether or not to open the door. Luo Nan's sudden passing caused the male artist to jump in fright. He blurted out a curse. You're asking for a beating. Luo Nan raised his eyebrows. He didn't stop and just walked straight past. The male artist finally confirmed that there was no one outside the door. Just as he opened the door a crack, there was a loud thud and the door shook. He went, "Ah," and fell back, bumping into his completely defenseless bedmate behind him. The female artist screamed and fell back. Fortunately, she reacted in time and held onto the male artist, so she didn't fall down. However, the collar of the male artist's shirt made the female artist choke. Luo Nin used his interference power to vent his anger. Then he took the elevator downstairs. The female artist screamed and fell back. Hai Jing discovered that Luo Nin had gone out from the nameplate information system and asked. The boss was embarrassed when he found out about the situation. He wanted to send someone to take his place, but Luo Nin refused. Luo Nin didn't care about running errands. Peony's so-called perfect plan wasn't feasible, and he was already idle. It wasn't bad to have something to do. Also, since Ruifeng restaurant's refreshments were famous, there was no harm in giving some to Mo Ye and the others. Wasn't this supposed to be a visit? Luo Nin soon exited the office building. According to the display of the electronic map, he needed to cross the plaza to the opposite block. Crossing the plaza, which could hold several 100,000 people, was not a matter of a few steps. Due to the demonstration, some public transportation was restricted. He had to either ride a bicycle or rely on his 2 legs. In short, it was physically exhausting work. Bicycle leg, single leg car. Forget it. Let's just ride a bicycle. Luo Nin turned off the electronic map. Before this, he had already locked onto the location of the legendary Ruifeng restaurant through his mental senses. Right now, he wasn't afraid of walking the wrong way even if he closed his eyes. Luo Nin rode his bicycle across the plaza. Right now, the municipal plaza could be considered to be a sea of people. The bicycle needed to take many detours before it could find a specially opened evacuation tunnel. The bicycle could travel relatively smoothly. Luo Nin's wristband vibrated continuously. It was a screenshot of the orders sent by the BHD group. 1, 2, 3, 4? Oh, the 4th ring wasn't from the wristband. It came from the connection between Luo Nin and ink on the mental plane. The source came from Peony, who was still wandering halfway. How's the progress? If you want to do this sort of plan again, then find someone better. Luo Nin roughly observed the situation around the municipal plaza. The living starry sky was becoming more and more crowded. It was like a river overflowing under a torrential rain. Millions and millions of stars flowed endlessly, refreshing at every moment. If Luo Nin wanted to search for ability users, mutants, or even Darksider species like the Wraith sign, Luo Nin would not be afraid. But if he wanted to search for Phase 2 infected, Phase 2? You want to search for Phase 2? Peony was surprised for once. What's wrong? Right now, it's estimated to be Phase 2. Of course I want to search for Phase 2 and be vigilant against Phase 3. Peony interrupted his words. Mr. Partner, you have obsessive-compulsive disorder, right? Cough. That's because I lack common sense. Right now in the world, there are no methods outside of the laboratory that can effectively determine the existence of Phase 2 infected. Especially in this sort of environment, I believe this is the most basic of common sense. You're not going to search for Phase 2? Of course. Phase 1 is the source of infection for mutants. Phase 3 is the target for primary mutants. These are the targets of search that have actual meaning. I know that Phase 2 infected people have more value in management, but that's only in theory. It doesn't have any actual meaning. Perhaps only people with severe obsessive-compulsive disorder would consider things from this angle. Luo Nin was certain that if Peony stood in front of him, he would accelerate at full speed and crash into her. Several seconds later, Peony sent him a low chuckle. Mr. Partner, are you angry? Luo Nin ignored her. I'm sorry. Maybe I haven't completely sobered up, or maybe I'm on my period. I don't really pay attention to what I say. You should already be in the plaza right now. Do you want to meet up with me? I've always been quite curious about a partner like you. Luo Nin's eyebrows jumped. He instinctively looked all around, believing that Peony had discovered him. He only reacted half a second later. She was still walking leisurely on the road right now, and Ink was her best informant. But on the other hand, Luo Nan had displayed a degree of familiarity with the current situation of the plaza because Ink was together with her. This made Peony make a judgment that matched the facts. Did he give himself away? Luo Nan hesitated for a moment. He wasn't interested in maintaining a sense of mystery, but Her Majesty Empress Wu must have had her reasons for arranging this pattern. There was no need to complicate matters. So he refused. He put on a little act in passing. Compared to my eyes, your plan is more meaningful. Fine. In any case, someone is treating me to lunch, even though I might not go. Then we'll contact each other again in the afternoon. We'll work overtime together at night to search for the targets of Phase 1 and Phase 3. Peony intentionally emphasized these two words. Luo Nan's lips twitched. Okay, if you discover anything during this time, you can notify me. I'm always online. There was nothing else to do after this. Luo Nan rode his bicycle and locked onto Ruifeng Building. He left in a hurry and returned in a hurry. When he really rode over, he knew that this journey would not be easy. Time was very tight. Fortunately, Luo Nan had been cultivating nonstop recently. Coupled with the feedback from his soul strength under the coupling relationship, his physical strength surpassed the limits of an ordinary person. He was able to smoothly make a round trip within 20 minutes. Luo Nan returned to the office building. The takeout ordered by the BHD group had arrived one after another. The last delivery boy arrived around the same time as Luo Nan. Luo Nan was near the service desk. He checked the orders one by one to confirm that everything was complete. Then he encountered a new problem. As a temporary delivery boy, Luo Nan was running 5 or 6 orders at the same time, but he only had one pair of hands. The amount of food for so many people and the reality of the separate packaging made it impossible for Luo Nan to use conventional methods to move this pile of things up in one go. Luo Nan looked at the pile of beautifully packaged food boxes on the ground, and he was puzzled despite much thought. It didn't make sense. No matter how gluttonous a group of girls were, they shouldn't have gone to this extent. Did they still need to manage their bodies? Luo Nan checked the order information they sent over once more, but he didn't discover any problems. Oh, wait a moment. There was another message besides the order. The sender of the message was Clara. Luo Nan gave a cursory glance and laughed bitterly. The sound of lithe footsteps drew near at this time. A woman's voice whispered, "Mr. Luo, let me help." Luo Nan turned his head and saw Yuqin greeting him 3 steps away from him. Their gazes met, and Yuqin bowed slightly. She wore a moon-white long sweater that reached her knees. She paired it with a polka-dot blouse and a high-waisted skirt. She walked with a light and familiar style. It was fortunate that her temperament was able to hold it up. In the end, she still came downstairs to greet him. This sort of attitude concealed her natural intelligence and sharpness. She concealed it over and over again. She was extremely cautious and conservative. Luo Nan knew what Yuqin was thinking, and Yuqin had a corresponding awareness. Perhaps it was a bit difficult for her to grasp the right amount of heat, so she simply did things a bit more extreme. What she sought was a state of no one will blame you for being too polite. Such a smart and calm young girl had really been implicated by her stupid older brother. But then again, Luo Nan couldn't figure out. Could it be that in the eyes of others, he really was a big boss who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance? A big boss who would annihilate an entire family? Luo Nan sighed. It's good that you came. Help keep an eye out for a bit. I'll go find a luggage cart or something. Only now did Yuqin truly count the number of food boxes stacked under Luo Nan's feet. She was a bit shocked. This many. It seems like Clara ordered lunch for the seniors in the same building. Chapter 456. Yuqin and Clara's friendship had not yet reached the stage of judging behind her back, so she only smiled. As it turned out, the possibility of finding a luggage cart in the lobby of an office building was almost zero. In the end, the two of them still had to use the simplest method of manual labor to move the food boxes into the elevator. Let's move one batch first. Later, you guard the elevator. I'll move the rest over. All right. By the way, call them, especially Clara. Just wait outside the elevator. It's a waste not to use the labor. Once we arrive at the station, we'll split them up. Yuqin obeyed obediently and really called the other side. Then the two of them picked up the big and small food boxes and walked inside. Since it was a private elevator, not many people used it. They didn't see anyone else on the way. It was also at this moment that Eugene finally broke the veil. "Mr. Luo, I'm very sorry." Luo Nin gazed at the long corridor in front of him. He was a bit helpless. "I don't care about that matter." "I know." Eugene lowered her eyes and smiled faintly, her meaning subtle. "I can see that. However, I said sorry because if I didn't do something unnecessary to confirm it from you, I wouldn't be able to feel at ease. That's why I pestered you so much today. Please forgive me." Only then did Luo Nin shoot her a glance. He nodded and said, "It's fine." Before Eugene could say anything else, the elevator in front of them opened and a middle-aged man hurried out. He was dressed in formal attire, and the style was quite similar to that of Hai Jing. He took off the nameplate on his chest as he walked. Luo Nan's eyes were sharp. He saw that was the pass to Mingtang Culture's floor. As they walked past each other, the man glanced at him. His wristband rang at that moment. He quickly answered the call and answered, Yes, I'm Xiao Sha. It's on the first floor of the Tongwei building. Just come over, I'll wait outside." "No problem. There's absolutely no problem with the authority." Luo Nin piled up the food boxes in the elevator and left Yuqin to look after them. Then he went back and moved them a second time. In the lobby, he saw the man with the surname Sha standing straight outside the door like an old doorman. Luo Nin didn't mind. He carried the remaining food containers back to the elevator and tidied things up with Yuqin. They both swiped their nameplates and prepared to go up. A second later, the elevator doors opened again. He could vaguely hear the man, surnamed Sha, panting outside. "I made it. Young Master He, please." A group of people hurried in as they spoke. The leader of the group cursed. "Xia City really has enough paparazzi." Aya. Luo Nan and Yuqin had already paid great attention to their placement, but there were far too many food boxes. The people who came later were in a rush. The person at the front nearly kicked over a food box when they swarmed in. Actually, Luo Nin had already kicked him, but Luo Nin used his interference power to move along with the force without making a sound. The momentum was eliminated, and Luo Nin passed smoothly. He did it very discreetly. In the elevator, be it Yuqin or the person who came in first, none of them noticed. But outside the elevator, there was a strong reaction from the people who were entering one after another. They rushed forward and grabbed the shoulder of the person in the lead, forcefully pulling him back. His aura exploded, stirring up great waves. Luo Nan's mental senses had already covered the newcomer. He had not sensed the ability user earlier. However, in that instant, the person who had reacted first had actually leaped from an extremely ordinary state to at least C+. His explosive power was astonishing, and his ability to conceal his aura was even more impressive. Luo Nan's relaxed mind suddenly went taut. He locked onto the most threatening target in the first instance. He subconsciously extended his arm to block Yuqin behind him, but the scene suddenly changed in the next moment. Someone shouted, "Young Master He," and rushed up in a hurry. It was the person with the surname Sha, who was suspected to be an employee of Mingtang Culture. The weather was obviously cold, but this person's face was covered in a layer of sweat. The sweat moistened his dry and loose cheeks. His face seemed to glow faintly, and he was especially excited. "What's going on?" "The elevator is broken." "Huh?" The person with the surname Sha saw Luo Nan and Yuqin in the exclusive elevator. There were food boxes of all sizes by their feet. He was stunned, but soon he said angrily, "What's going on with you guys?" "This is an exclusive elevator assigned to our company. Non-authorized personnel are not allowed to enter." Luo Nin didn't pay attention to him. He just cautiously scanned everyone outside the elevator. He saw two familiar faces in a row, and it was inevitable that he was a bit surprised. At the same time, the most threatening person should have recognized him. His solemn expression loosened a bit. He bowed slightly, an apology for his overreaction just now. "Mr. Luo, what's the situation?" Qin Ikuan, who was outside the building, communicated through the hexa ear. His tone was nervous. The instantaneous explosion of the aura just now had appeared on the security team's monitoring equipment. It was truly a stone that stirred up 1,000 ripples. To put it bluntly, it was a complete mess. It's a misunderstanding. It's nothing. Luonin privately replied to Chinikuan. He found it a bit funny. In the end, was it a large-scale event to attract people? Or were the people of Xia City evil? Today's acquaintances were jumping out one by one. It was impossible to stop them. Luonin took care of both sides at the same time. It was inevitable that he would overlook the least important person. He didn't open his mouth, but Yuqin stepped forward and spoke in a soft voice. We followed Director Wu's instructions to go to Afeng Building to get some refreshment for Sister Weiwei. You know, it's not convenient for Assistant Meng to leave right now. This reason was sufficient. The person with the surname Sha seemed to believe it. You guys are from Mingtang culture? Where's the nameplate? Director Wu had arranged for Luo Nan to remove his nameplate before leaving to avoid running into paparazzi reporters. Luo Nan forgot to hang his nameplate on his chest after entering the elevator and swiping his nameplate. He stuffed it back into his pocket. Most of Yuqin's body was blocked behind him, so this person probably didn't see it. The other person's words were quite reasonable. Luo Nan took out his nameplate and spread it out in his palm, displaying it for the other person to see. The person with the surname Sha simply took the nameplate and blinked. His contact lenses scanned the nameplate, and the relevant information was read out. Authorized by Hai Jing. Huh, and yours. Yuqin copied Luo Nan and handed over her nameplate. The person with the surname Sha received it and confirmed it once more before nodding. It looked like he approved of it. He even revealed a smile on his face. So you guys were brought by Hai Jing. Since you guys are Hai Jing's subordinates, have you never asked who their department head is? There was such a thing? Luo Nan was just about to explain when he heard a loud bang. This director, Sha, smashed the side wall of the elevator with force. Which family do you guys belong to? You came in through crooked means? Mountain Creek or BHD? Speak. Luo Nan knew that things were bad when Manager Sha's expression suddenly changed. The two of them had indeed gone through the back door. They could accept being reprimanded. But Director Sha's words clearly put a label on Hai Jing. The meaning behind it was quite deep. Luo Nan frowned. The two acquaintances outside the elevator were watching with cold eyes. He didn't want to engage in a meaningless conflict and make a fool of himself. So he said, "We really were upstairs helping out. Every single bastard says the same thing. Then they do whatever they want to do." Director Sha sneered. Director Wu has a myriad of problems to deal with every day. He only recognizes nameplates and not people. It's not strange that you guys have Hai Jing supporting you from behind. Everyone knows that Sister Wei has the habit of having morning and afternoon tea. But don't tell me you guys bought all of this for Sister Wei. Okay, you guys don't need to say anything. I'll have Hai Jing explain things to Director Wu. Director Sha quickly blinked twice and took a picture of Luo Nan and Yuqin. He raised his chin. Leave Sister Wei's tea and snack behind. Take the rest out. Be more self-aware, or else I'll call security. Director Sha turned his body after he finished speaking coldly. His arrogant figure instantly bent in half, and the wrinkles on his face piled up. Young He, please wait a moment. We'll be done here soon. Chapter 457. No matter what, Yuqin was born into a wealthy family. Even though she was submissive to Luo Nan, she was extremely arrogant in her bones. Director Sha was a department head of a management company, yet he was arrogant and bossy. He even spat out the words, "Get lost." How could she endure this? Show some respect. Miss, do you think it would be more respectful to let the security guards come and drag you away? Director Sha looked at Yuqin's clothes. Most of them were fashionable items, and her matching was quite good. He knew that this woman's family was quite well off. Normally, he wouldn't have directly shed all pretense of cordiality. But right now he was backed by the young master of the He family. In a few days, he would be like a fish leaping into a dragon. What was there to be afraid of? Director Sha held a breath of heroism as he stood in front of the elevator door. He felt more and more at ease. He didn't waste words and directly called for the building's security guards. He finished calling and saw that Luo Nan and Yuqin had no intention of coming out. He wasn't in a hurry. He reached out and pointed at the two. Shameless, huh? Fine. You guys stay here. Director Sha directly confiscated their nameplates and used his authority to lock down the elevator. Only then did he turn around and smile once more. Apologies, young he. I wasn't strict enough with my subordinates. I've made a fool out of myself. There's no reason to reason with these idle-chasing kids. I'll deal with the relevant personnel of the company severely later. Young he, don't let them ruin your mood. I'll have the property management open up a backup elevator. It won't take much time. Young he chuckled outside the elevator. It's fine. Director Shah handled things well. You've thought things through very thoroughly. It's my duty. Young he, this way, please. Director Shah relaxed completely when he saw that Young he didn't blame him. He twisted his face and gave Luo Nan and Yuqin a cold glance. He was about to walk out of the elevator when he remembered something. Give me Sister Wei's refreshments. He wanted to be bold and confident, but Luo Nan and Yuqin were disinclined to pay attention to him. Director Shah saw that the security guards had already come over from the other end of the corridor. He was even more fearless. He simply did it himself. He lowered his head and searched through the food boxes on the floor. He had seen the refreshments and food boxes of Ruifeng building before. According to his thoughts, there was only one such high-end custom-made food box in the elevator. He could just take it away if he found it. He believed that this young couple wouldn't dare to snatch it. But when he cast his gaze over, Director Shah was stunned. 1, 2, 3. 3 maroon food boxes, specially made by Ruifeng Restaurant, were neatly arranged at the innermost end of the elevator. The original wood material and the 3-story pavilion's design were exactly the same as the Eastern classical artwork. Director Shah could not help but turn his head and look at young Master He, who was still smiling and watching the show. Could it be that Shi Wei specifically ordered 3 portions to entertain the guests? This was drinking tea, not feeding pigs. So, the other 2 were probably bought by the young couple themselves to give to their idols? The price at Ruifeng Restaurant was not low. Which one is Sister Wei's? Manager Shah had no choice but to ask. Luonan shrugged. He was too lazy to even open his mouth. He had to admit that he was partly responsible for the difficulty of moving the takeout boxes. After all, in addition to what Shi Wei's assistant had ordered, there was also Cat Eyes' so-called flowing stone set. In order to show filial respect to his older sister and complete the task of visiting the set, he had bought another set. 2 sets of tea set, desserts, food box, and tea set cost more than 10,000 yuan. Without a doubt, this was the impulsive spending of a nouveau riche after his wallet was full. Director Shah did not care about the nouveau riche. He had seen many crazy fans who would throw money away for their idols. Luo Nan and the others were not the craziest. He just felt awkward. If this couple didn't cooperate and he took the wrong food, it would be hard for him to avoid being punished by Shi Wei. Plus, he did not forget that Shi Wei's lover was right behind him. Director Shah was a bit anxious. He saw that the security guards had already approached, so his voice grew louder. The tea and snacks were definitely ordered by Sister Wei. You 2 are going to forcefully steal them. 2 people come. Drag them out first. As he spoke, Director Shah moved back to give the security guards room to act. At the same time, he pondered whether or not he should contact Assistant Meng, who was by Shi Wei's side, and ask her about the details of the tea and snacks order. Young Master, he clicked his tongue just as he exited the elevator. It's pretty ugly now that it's developed to the point of pulling and pulling. Director Shah hurriedly turned around. Young Master He, don't worry. We absolutely won't delay you and Sister Wei from drinking your morning tea. Hey, you guys, don't kick over the innermost food boxes. It was rare for him to take care of both sides and still be able to think clearly without a hint of chaos. And for the sake of expressing his importance, he drilled back into the elevator after the security guards restrained Luo Nan and Yuqin. He bent over to pick up the 3 custom-made food boxes. Young Master He's laughter came from behind him. He could hear that he was quite delighted. This proves one thing. People must live magnanimously. They must live properly. Otherwise, if you play the pig, you will fall into the dung pit. If you act cool, you will be struck by lightning. Director Shah hated himself for touching the food boxes. He bent over, unable to turn around and send out a sincere smile. But his mouth did not fall behind. He praised loudly. Young Master He's words are truly incisive. Huh? He had just lifted the food box in the middle when a certain chain of logic in the depths of his brain suddenly snapped. He was unable to connect the cause and effect, no matter what. Young Master He's voice continued to enter his ears. That's right. It's this expression. Wait for me to record it and save it as evidence. Boss Luo, you chased stars behind my sister's back and hooked up with little girls. This is retribution. You must be bored. The cold and indifferent voice came from the young bastard. Director Shah ignored this sentence. The information in front of him really made him a bit dumbfounded. Sister? What sister? Director Shah maintained his bent posture and froze on the spot. However, his thoughts were like a kite that had lost its string. It spun crazily in a vortex and could not find its direction at all. In this chaotic state, Director Shah vaguely knew that the security guard he had called had retreated. Young Master He, his bodyguards, and followers, who had exited the elevator earlier, had rushed in again. Due to the existence of the food box, the place to step was relatively tight. People were squeezed, and people were pushed against each other. Director Shah bent over, so the area he occupied was a little large. Someone knocked on his spine twice. It was young Master He. Stand up straight. Don't get in the way. Oh my God, I'm going to collapse. Director Shah did not know how his spine, which was as soft as noodles, was supported. When he straightened his body, he saw young Master He smiling as he put his arm around the shoulder of the bastard fan. The latter was pushing him away with a cold expression. Young Master He was not annoyed at all. On the contrary, he laughed out loud. Don't mind me, don't mind me. I'm flattered that you brought tea and snacks for our Xiaowei. In the future, I will absolutely not create any obstruction between you and my sister. That's good enough, right? Such intimate words and body language made Director Shah's face turn into a bewitching neon rainbow in the red light district. It was ever-changing. In the end, it was completely cut off and turned into a patch of black ash. When things reached an extreme, they would move in the opposite direction. At this moment, years of social instincts dominated everything. Director Shah's face suddenly burst into a smile. Sorry. This. His instincts were still flawed. Director Shah's mind suddenly went blank. He had forgotten the surname of this most important person. He Donglu kindly reminded him, call him Boss Luo. Don't look at his tender face. He's a ruthless character who can order my sister around. Hey, stop squeezing. Otherwise, if only one of us goes down, we won't be able to live. In an instant, almost everyone's gaze fell on Director Shah's face. I don't want to live. Chapter 458. He Donglu, temporarily unemployed, a vagrant. The elevator went up quickly. Young Master He introduced himself. He looked humorous, friendly, and elegant. It was as if the scene of him hugging his shoulders and laughing strangely was all a dream. Hello, young Master He. Yu Qin extended her hand and lightly shook He Donglu's hand. Luo Nen gave a simple introduction according to etiquette. Yu Qin, classmate. Actually, the relationship was a bit more complicated, but Luo Nan was disinclined to explain it to He Donglu. Hello, classmate. You have unlimited possibilities. He Donglu recovered his mischievous demeanor. However, he stopped there and didn't continue teasing. Didn't he step forward just now to control the situation? He absolutely couldn't let the dangerous person in front of him fly into a rage out of humiliation. Since they had appeared here, there was a high chance that they would continue to cross paths. He was here to amuse himself. There was no need for him to put himself in danger. Oh, and don't clash with the target. At this time, Yu Qin's bracelet vibrated. It was by Yu and the others, who were anxiously waiting at the elevator, making a phone call. Yu Qin didn't mention the conflict downstairs. She simply said a few words and hung up. He Donglu swept his eyes over the rapidly changing numbers on the panel. He said with a smile, "Many thanks, old bro. You personally brought the takeout. This is a great favor. I'll get Shiwei to toast you a few more cups later. If she has any good friends, I'll introduce them to you first." Luo Nin responded in a lukewarm tone. It was just in passing. No need to be polite. Though Luo Nin said this, he still gave Yi Donglu a few more glances. After all, it was gossip about an A-list celebrity. He had just read it with Baiyu. Even if Shi Wei was an A-lister, she would not have the guts to cheat in front of young Master Kong Tianhe. This was probably the legendary changing the scene. The atmosphere in the elevator became a lot more natural. He Donglu pointed at the food boxes on the floor and said with a smile, "Then, old bro, who are you visiting? Look at this amount. TSK, TSK. Isn't this too much of a philanthropist? I, your brother, am willing to admit defeat. Luo Nin didn't beat around the bush. My cousin's band is performing tonight. There are also a few new friends I've made." He Donglu was very surprised. "Ah, then I really have to support you. Her band is Shanxi. She just signed a contract with Ming Tang. She's not that famous." He Donglu's brows jumped. "Just signed? At this time?" Luo Nan's gaze was focused. "Is there something wrong? Brother, it seems like your sensitivity is not high enough. Don't you know which company owns Mingtang Culture?" He Donglu didn't intentionally leave him hanging. He quickly answered his own question. "The Ancient Castle Financial Group. The Bloodflame Order." He purposely lowered his voice when he said the last word, creating a perfect atmosphere. Ding dong. The elevator reached the 56th floor. The atmosphere lightened a bit, but He Donglu was able to see Luo Nan's tightly furrowed brows as he wished. He spread his hands. "So you understand. Speaking of which box is Shi Wei's? I'll just bring it over." "The middle." Luo Nan responded subconsciously. Thanks a lot." Speaking of which, He Donglu was quite ostentatious. Apart from the old driver bodyguard that Wang Yao had seen in Ocean Sky Cloud City, there were still 5 or 6 attendants. Naturally, there were people taking his place at this time. The elevator door opened, and He Donglu walked out with a beaming smile. In the next moment, his eyes lit up. Hey, didn't I say that Ming Tang's resources aren't bad? You guys are that long-legged, good-looking group? What's your name again?" All the members of BHD were gathered outside the lift. Originally, he was waiting for his family's pastries and snacks. Who would have thought that when the elevator opened, a playboy would come out? They couldn't help but be a bit stupefied. Luckily, the housekeeper, Shui Yuan, was well-trained. She counted to 3, then the 3 sisters bowed at the same time with a smile. "Hello, we are BHD." He Donglu chuckled. His playboy temperament flared up. He instinctively reached out his hand, wanting to touch the face of Clara, the most good-looking of them all. But his hand was halfway there when he felt an inexplicable chill on his back. He cursed inwardly and could only lift it up. He tidied his own hair and turned around. "There are quite a few people here in Mingtang that I like. I suddenly have an idea. Brother, let's join hands. We could talk about the capital operation. I'll give you 20% of the shares. You just need to help me grasp the timing and see when it's good to strike the bottom." Luo Nin stared at him. "Tian Bang is a member of your military. He's even in the Coastal Defense Force. Tian Bang isn't that vulgar. As for me, my position in the He family isn't that high. You, on the other hand, can ask my sister and your secretary about the progress." He Donglu extended his hands and bumped fists. "Our appetites aren't that big. Even if they beat our brains out, it won't hinder us from picking up girls. Cough. Earning money." Luo Nin shut his mouth and didn't say anything. He didn't feel like continuing this topic. He Donglu shrugged his shoulders and turned around very straightforwardly. "Thank you again. Come back and have some tea later." At that moment, he led a group of bodyguards and followers and swaggered away. Luo Nin stared at Luo Nan's back. He felt that Luo Nan seemed to be close to him, but Luo Nan's mouth was full of lies. Luo Nin was filled with dissatisfaction towards Luo Nan. This was very normal. With He Donglu's family background, there was absolutely no need for him to stick his face to an ability user. Not to mention that night at Ocean Sky Cloud City, when this person was being domineering, when he was forcefully suppressed by He Yuan. Kitty, any man would feel aggrieved after such an experience. Wouldn't it be a joke if they became the worst friend the second time they met? He Donglu seemed to have noticed Luo Nan's line of sight. He turned his head and waved at Luo Nan before he turned the corner. His smile was brilliant. After entering the passageway corridor, He Donglu's smile didn't change. He pressed the secret communication button on his wristband to talk to the bodyguard beside him. Speaking of which, How about me and that kid's older sister go for a while? It should be easy to play rock and roll. What's this called? Courtesy demands reciprocity. Don't you learn this from my sister? The bodyguard didn't want to get involved in this topic, but out of professional considerations, he still responded. Right now, he has a security team by his side. We have people in there. Holy crap. Old C, when did you become sinister? Luo Nan has always been a target that the military has been trying to control. It was Miss Een who arranged for people to be placed there. It was for protection and for precaution. He Donglu said unhappily. I know that this fellow is very dangerous, but can't you be a bit more straightforward with your words? The bodyguard, Old C, organized his words before saying, Luo Nan, in the inner world, has the highest evaluation of AB+. In the military's evaluation, he has an A, and in the judgment of the Xia city government, he has a red, meaning that he is extremely dangerous. Hold on. He Donglu interrupted Old C's words. He was a bit annoyed. The military and the government's judgments are out? When did this happen? Why are they still being raised? Just last week. Old C explained seriously. In terms of individual combat strength, Luo Nan's performance isn't all that outstanding. There are plenty of people in this world who can suppress him. But the key problem lies in the fact that he relies on tools like the Flying Devil Ray. He is an infrasonic array that can move at will. His destructive power towards civilians and conventional troops is comparable to that of extraordinaries. In addition to his unfathomable and profound level of mental senses and his young and emotional mental state, his degree of threat within Xia City and its surrounding regions has nothing to do with distance, interpersonal relationships, or division of power. Therefore, it suggests that young master he should maintain a distance with him in front of and behind of people. Old C wanted to say distance with this last sentence, but he felt that it was ambiguous. He hesitated for a moment before changing his words. Chapter 459. Discretion. Old C's words had more or less bruised He Donglu's self-esteem. He grinned. Isn't he relying on that devil ray? How about this? I'll buy it and take it home to steam and braise it. Of course, these were words spoken out of anger. However, Old C's reply gave him another blow. The Xia City branch has already purchased that Flying Devil Ray last week. It's just that it's being nurtured there. This is an important reason why the city government and the general staff have updated their judgment. Motherf *her, leaving it there is disgusting. He Donglu sucked in a breath of cold air. He knew very well that the Xia City branch was fishing in this manner. They were fishing specifically for big fish like him, who harbored evil intentions. As for purchasing it in advance, it was even more reasonable. Of course, the Xia City branch was happy to see a threatening and intimidating existence comparable to an extraordinary, especially since Luo Nan was still so young, easy to control, and easy to train. This favor was enough to make the kid shed tears of gratitude for several years. Oh, looking at the time, it just so happens to be after Tianbang's torment. Humph, using an A-rank, dangerous individual to offset the impact of the incident and return to the old balance of power. He Donglu curled his lips, fully joining the special power of the ability user organization, maintaining the dynamic balance between the military and the capital power, and allowing the entire society to maintain its upward force like a bamboo dragonfly. Isn't this the ideal state of the extraordinary era that my sister wishes for? TCH, if she wants to do politics, then what is she doing outside? No matter what her background is, she is now surnamed He. She is of the blood of the He family. As long as she makes up her mind, she will fight her way through the military. Perhaps the Air Force will be hers in the future. It's better than letting someone else take over. Old C spoke softly, using the extraordinary as the handle, using the military and the capital power as the rotor. Even though the power is meager, it is enough to allow civilization to rise in the sea of stars and stand alone in the universe. What did you say? He Donglu didn't hear it too clearly. Old C shook his head, returning to the bodyguard's usual silence. He Donglu had already arrived at the door of the suite. He pressed the doorbell, but then he thought of something. Everyone says that kids' sensing ability is super strong. At this distance, it's most likely possible. Fuck. The door to the suite opened. He Donglu had a belly full of anger. He directly bypassed Assistant Meng and went inside. Shi Wei was bored to death in the living room. When she saw He Donglu suddenly appear, she couldn't help but burst into a pleasantly surprised smile. Next, she lightly hugged him with Western etiquette. If it were in the past, He Donglu might have directly made his move. But now, when he thought of the pair of incorporeal eyes watching his every move, he couldn't help but feel apprehensive. After a light hug, they separated. Attendant number 1 took advantage of this moment to place the auspicious Abundance Restaurant's custom-made food box on the tea table. He Donglu pursed his lips. I ran into a little demon running errands on the road, so I brought it over for you. These words were meant for someone to hear. His mouth was taking advantage, but He Donglu was actually depressed in his heart. The worst part about dealing with an ability user like Luo Nan was this. As long as the core of Luo Nan's power wasn't truly shaken, then Luo Nan could forget about taking any substantial advantage. Luo Nan would have to risk being killed at any time. Shi Wei kissed him lightly on the corner of his lips. Let's have morning tea together. What do you want to eat? Shark's fin. He Donglu responded expressionlessly. Shi Wei was stunned. He Donglu couldn't help but sigh in despair when he thought about the sudden change in the program he was currently arranging. He patted Shi Wei's slender waist and sat down on the sofa. He closed his eyes and rested. Shi Wei was an A-list female star in the outside world. She had countless fans, but in front of a young master like He Donglu, she still very consciously put herself in the position of a canary. She obediently opened the food box, preparing to brew tea to receive He Donglu. Attendant number 1 took the opportunity to take credit for his performance. Young master I'm gonna go connect with old Shah and organize the information. Then there won't be a day for the event. Halfway through his words, he saw He Donglu suddenly open his eyes and stare coldly at him. It was as if he was looking at an idiot or even a dead man. Ho, young master He Donglu wanted to throw something at him, but when he saw the pillow on the sofa, he felt that this fellow was taking advantage of him. He could only grit his teeth and say, "It's already 100 years of the Information Society. You still need to run to the scene when doing a project. Don't think that I don't know what you guys are thinking. Go. Don't stay here." Attendant number 1 had a stupefied look on his face. He Donglu let out a long sigh. His head and shoulders leaned back on the sofa. He was too lazy to speak again. This was another reason why he hated ability users. They completely exceeded the limits of a normal person's thinking. As long as they were willing, perhaps there were no secrets in this world to speak of. At this time, He Donglu looked at his attendants and felt vexed. He couldn't say anything. He could only wave his hand. I'm going to rest. Get lost. Hurry up and get lost. The attendants were a loss of what to do. Did he want them to do something? Or was it something else? He Donglu became more and more worried when he saw the ignorant appearances of this group of people. He was truly worried that this group of people would speak without restraint once they left the door. They would spill everything about that matter. If some unforeseen event were to happen, then he could forget about raising his head in the circle of Xia City in the future. Old C, I'll stay at Shi Wei's place for a while. I'll give you a vacation. Bring them downstairs. Get some exercise. Young Master you don't need to worry about safety. With a certain someone here, if something were to happen to me, would he still have the face to see my sister? He Donglu had really gone all out. He had to hide that matter no matter what. He then sent a text message to Old C, teaching him how to explain things to his attendants. Just like this, aside from He Donglu, the group of people came in majestically. They left with their heads and faces covered in dirt. They were all baffled. They turned out of the passageway and just happened to bump into Luo Nan and the long-legged, good-looking guy. They were carrying food containers and were just entering room 5621. Normally, the group of attendants would certainly say a few flowery words, but right now, they were in no mood at all. Don't forget that Old C was still watching silently from the side. Boss Luo, who made He Donglu look at him in a different light, was right in front of him. They were able to be He Donglu's long-term attendants. At the very least, they had the eyesight to keep their mouths shut and speak less. This was the best choice they could make. Old C nodded toward Luo Nen in greeting. The attendants copied him one after another, and the two groups brushed shoulders. Who are these people? Baiyu had question marks on her head. She saw them come out from the sealed passageway, and behind them was the only luxurious suite on this floor. Her eyes were filled with sparks of gossip. She turned her head and saw that Luo Nan was deep in thought. He didn't respond, so she turned her gaze to her best friend. Sienner, you just came up with them. Yu Qin's elegant eyebrows furrowed slightly. She bit her lower lip, unwittingly biting it until it turned white. If she didn't do this, she wouldn't be able to suppress the trembling that suddenly erupted within her body. The source of the stimulation wasn't Donglu. It was Luo Nan who was beside her. Her sensitivity in this area far surpassed everyone else present. She was able to more or less guess the answer from the limited information, such as Donglu's surname, the military, and so on. Kong Tianhe? Only now did she discover that her evaluation of Luo Nan's status had actually increased. It was raised to a nearly untouchable level. This made her a bit at a loss as to what to do. Therefore, she didn't hear Baiyu's question at all. She just walked straight in. Shui Yuan and Clara did the same. Baiyu still couldn't get an answer. She couldn't help but pat Luo Nan's arm. Why are you all so mysterious? Boss Luo, who in the world was that guy? He had a cheeky smile on his face, and he seemed to be Sister Weiwei's boyfriend? Luo Nan could only chuckle when he saw her expectant gaze, ready to receive some gossip at any time. He carried the two flowing stone-set food boxes into the room, but he had second thoughts. It wasn't good to leave these refreshments for too long. He should go take a look at Moya's place. He turned around and was about to leave, but Baiyu had already grabbed the food boxes like a lackey. Boss, Bai Xiaoyu is here to serve you. I don't need you. Luo Nan wanted to take the food boxes from Baiyu's hands, but this little girl nimbly dodged to the side. She ran through the door first. Clearly, he wouldn't be able to get a reply from the food boxes if he didn't bring out a sufficient amount of gossip. Cat Eyes, who hadn't left the room this entire time, chuckled twice. But she didn't say anything that would make Luo Nan feel even more embarrassed for the sake of the expensive flowing stone set. Luo Nan shook his head and left the room. Baiyu stood outside with her head held high and her chest puffed out. She assumed the posture of an orderly soldier. Give it to me. Baiyu put the food boxes behind her back. She looked like she was dying. I just wanted to ask and satisfy my curiosity. The identity of Sister Weiwei's boyfriend is a huge piece of gossip. Don't worry. I absolutely won't post it on the internet. So, if I don't mess around this time, you'll turn around and post it on the internet? Luo Nan discovered that he had underestimated Baiyu's gossipy nature. He found it harder and harder to spit it out. Just as he was about to say something, the door to room 5621 opened. Yu Qin stood at the door and spoke softly. Boss, do you need help? Don't tell me you can help hold Baiyu down? Luo Nan waved his hand. Go rest. Yu Qin didn't say much. Her gaze lingered on Luo Nan's face for a moment. Then she bowed and retreated behind the door, gently closing it. Baiyu finally saw the subtlety of the relationship between the two when she saw this scene. Sienner has such an arrogant temperament. Why is she so docile and obedient to you? What I mean is, Luo Nan was pondering over how to deal with this little gossip bug when he sensed something. Manager Sha, whose face could emit neon lights, had already come up in the elevator. She was headed for Shi Wei, but she saw Luo Nan and Baiyu messing around here when she turned the corner. Clearly, she jumped in fright. She hid on the other side of the corner, sneakily observing. Luo Nan's thoughts spun in succession. He combined this with Donglu's strange behavior and couldn't help but have a few more thoughts. He looked at Baiyu. The words that came out of his mouth had a subtle change. It's because of her family's company. This was an unexpected answer. Baiyu couldn't understand it all. Luo Nan revealed the truth of the matter. Her brother stole a woman and offended me. He's afraid that the company will go bankrupt, so... Are you serious? Baiyu seemed to be listening to a novel. Luo Nan shrugged. In any case, Yu Zheng isn't a smart person, right? Luo Nan felt that it was very interesting to see Baiyu's adorable expression. He suddenly had an impulse and reached out to pat her cheek. Baiyu stood there stupidly. Her eyes swiveled a few times before she suddenly cried out, "Manager Shah." Her voice lingered in the air as she slammed into the door with the food box in hand. She was like a scurrying little rabbit. Chapter 460. Bayou rushed through the door and nearly bumped into Clara. What stopped them were the two large food boxes in front of them. Bang! Both of their arms were numb from the shock. "What are you doing?" The two spoke in unison. Clara switched the hand holding the food boxes and gently flipped her hair. "I can't let the seniors wait too long. I'm going to deliver the food." Bayou curled her lips. "Seniors? Which seniors are you talking about? Your popularity really makes my heart beat like a drum." "Screw you. Why did you come back? Where's Radish Silk? If you bring the Flowing Stone kit back, what'll he use to visit?" "Ah, so stupid." Bayou scolded herself. Her voice dropped an octave in an instant. "Butcher. Butcher is outside." Bayou turned her head as she spoke. She saw that there was no sound outside. Only then did she realize, oh no, that guy must have been caught. Bayou wanted to open the door and go outside, but she was grabbed by Shui Yuan, who rushed up from behind. Then she turned on the security visual system. Within the visual range of the system, the hallway was empty. Not a single figure could be seen. Not a single voice could be heard. Where is he? Maybe he was dragged to the security office? He's not a thief. But, yeah, that's true. Though she said this, Bayou thought of Luo Nan's fingers slapping his face twice. The warm touch seemed to have lingered for quite some time. Her face was a bit hot, but she couldn't help but worry. Would he really not be treated as a thief? "I'll go out and check things out." Clara adjusted her breathing and raised her morale. "Is that okay?" Shui Yuan couldn't make up her mind. She turned to look at the others. Yu Qin, who had been following Luo Nan closely, was in a daze for some reason. Teacher Cat Eyes, who had the highest status here, was drinking tea with a smile. She didn't care about anything else. Shui Yuan seemed to realize something when she saw this scene. There seems to be no problem. Clara didn't care at all. "I have a valid reason." Though she said this, she still used the visual system to carefully check the situation outside. Only then did she open the door and go out. Bayou wanted to follow, but the image of Luo Nan's finger just now flashed in her mind. After hesitating for a moment, he was already a few steps behind. His courage instantly dropped. He could only stick his head out from the crack of the door and watch Carola pass through many doors until she reached the corner of the corridor, and then stay there. After a while, Clara held the food box and bowed. "Hello, Director Shah. It's over." After that, Clara, who had turned a corner, had obviously taken a big detour. She was practically sticking close to the base of the wall to escape. It was obvious that Manager Shah was still there. As for why he was staying there, the answer was very obvious. A few seconds later, Clara sent a message. "Don't come over. The butcher's smile is so scary." Bayou immediately replied, "Where is Boss Luo? Face the wall and reflect on your mistakes." After that, there was nothing else. Bayou stared blankly at the message for quite some time. In the end, her body felt weak as she leaned her head against the door. She was extremely depressed. See, my reaction just now was too extreme. Why would I run? Almost at the same time, Manager Shah wanted to cry too. Why did I overreact like that? He stuck close to the base of the wall. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to stand steadily. The smile on his face had long stiffened, but he didn't dare to change. The child in front of him looked to be 15 or 16 years old. He wasn't as tall as him, and he didn't have a fierce expression on his face. On the contrary, he looked a little wooden. Yet, he felt an unreasonable amount of pressure. Even if he was up against the big boss of Mingtang culture, he wouldn't be so indecisive. It was Clara's passing by that gave him a chance to catch his breath. Finally, his brain started to work. It was obvious that Boss Luo had a good relationship with the BHD group. Was she his target? According to his many years of experience, when it came to relationships between men and women, a teenager would be confused, thirsty, and possessive. Hence, they would be relatively complicated. Apart from those who matured early, most teenagers would be impulsive and wouldn't have a particularly heavy taste. But to be involved in multiple targets at the same time, if he wasn't a veteran, who else could be? But he didn't look like one. Was he good at disguising himself? The type that liked to play around with people's feelings? But The way he flirted with her wasn't like that at all. Manager Shah felt that he was really in a dilemma. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that, with his usual style of doing things, he would be so blind as to offend the son-in-law of Kong Tianhe. Of course, this was just a description. No matter what, Boss Luo was definitely the kind of person he couldn't afford to offend. Since he had done something stupid, he had to make up for it. What would he use to make up for it? He could only use his old profession. As a department manager of an entertainment company, he had many resources that ordinary people were envious of. But compared to a wealthy family like Kong Tianhe, it was a joke. The other party used him for fun. Otherwise, with just a thought, they could turn him into ashes with just a puff of air. Fun was the key word in everything. The best resource he had was none other than the banquet that was going to be organized soon. It was a carnival created by the libertines in the entertainment circle. There were some mysterious elements in it, and it had always been one of the most high-end symbols in the relevant circles. If Boss Luo liked this kind of thing, it would be ideal to do him a favor at little cost. But he still had some rationality left in him. Thousands of people had thousands of faces and thousands of desires. For an old driver who had crisscrossed the entertainment circle, a pool of wine and a forest of meat was what he wanted. But for a beginner who had just stepped into the field of love, he might even feel that it was dirty. There was a high chance that a hasty connection would backfire on one's clever plan before one could fully understand Boss Luo's background. Manager Shah had already thought things through. He would use Hai Jing, Young He, and many other channels to carefully inquire about Boss Luo. He would make plans after comprehensive consideration. But no matter what, he never thought that a terrible encounter would push him to the edge of the cliff. He watched helplessly as Luo Nan walked over. There was a distance of over 20 meters from room 5621 to the corner of the corridor. He had around 10 seconds to ponder over a countermeasure. But during this time, Manager Shah's mind was a field of blankness. It was as if a blackboard eraser had been used to erase the clever tricks that had been cultivated in the entertainment company for decades. It was a complete mess. After meeting Boss Luo, there seemed to be no other effective methods other than repeatedly apologizing and begging. But look at what this Boss Luo said. You didn't do anything wrong. I really did go for the back door. But I really am not some sightseeing fan. I just happened to run into Hai Jing, so I asked him for a favor. I came in to visit. You could go find him to confirm things. Is there something wrong with my brain? Why would I go and confirm things? Manager Shah was 120% sure that he had already offended this Boss Luo to the point of death. Otherwise, why would Boss Luo bother talking to him when he had already flipped the cards? Wasn't Boss Luo enjoying the pleasure of playing with a mouse? Perhaps this seemingly pure and good-natured youth was a psychopath. He had a disguised social personality. Normally, he would bring out this seemingly pure and good-natured personality to socialize with others. But in his heart, he enjoyed the pleasure of toying with the entire society. Yes. It was like this. Right now, the oxygen content in Manager Shah's brain was no longer enough to support his deeper research and judgment. Grasping onto a seemingly reasonable judgment was like grasping onto a life-saving straw. He didn't consider at all that this was an ideal result that he had pushed all the way with his only high-level resources. It was a low-end application of the high-end functions of a human brain. He was deceiving himself. Please wait a moment. Please wait a moment. Manager Shah ignored Luo Nan's strange gaze. He operated on his wristband in a flurry. But the more anxious and flustered he was, the easier it was for him to make mistakes. He tossed and turned until he was drenched in sweat, but he didn't succeed. This time, Luo Nan was truly curious. What are you doing? Manager Shah's operation appeared to be very complicated, and his authority requirements were extremely high. There were a few times where he even had to test his breathing, heartbeat, and so on. It seemed that he was trying to shield himself from abnormal states, such as being under duress. Sweat dripped from Manager Shah's forehead. He wanted to explain, but he couldn't find an entry point for the time being. Right when he was about to die, he suddenly saw Boss Luo turn his head and frown. Whose room is room 5605? What? Oh, please wait a moment. I'll check. Manager Sha had a bitter expression on his face. He was just about to switch to the verification interface when a light suddenly flashed in his mind. The relevant memories came back. Lan Lin. It's Lan Lin, the high-quality idol that the company has nurtured for the past 2 years. High-quality idol? Right now, Luo Nan's mental senses had already covered room 5605. He saw this high-quality idol using his skillful and masterful techniques that could be used as teaching material to tease Clara, who had just delivered his takeout. If it wasn't for his companion coming out from the cubicle, Luo Nan would probably be in room 5605, reenacting the teaching video from room 5627. Not even an hour had passed, and the male lead hadn't changed, but the female lead had changed. Moreover, the quality was top-notch. Luo Nan admired him. Your company is really capable of producing people, S. Luo Nan was really worried about Moya's prospects after signing with Mingtang Culture. Even though the rumors said that all the entertainment companies under the heavens were black-hearted, the feeling of seeing it with one's own eyes was always different. 2 seconds later, Clara escaped from room 5605 in a sorry state. However, the blush on her cheeks proved that she had indeed been teased. This was even more conspicuous on her milky white skin. She was distracted the entire way. She actually forgot that Manager Shah was blocking her way. Only when she reached the middle of the corridor did she see that there was no longer a large food container. She was truly at a loss on what to do. Luckily, Claire's mental fortitude was a bit stronger than Bayu's. She only froze for half a second before revealing a perfect, sweet smile. She instinctively flipped her blonde hair and greeted Luo Nan with her best female charm. She covered herself by sticking to the wall and slipping away. Luo Nan watched her leave. He was deep in thought. New evidence obtained. Manager Shah secretly clenched her fists. There was no need to mention the female companion who had delivered the takeout with her. First, there was Bayu. Now, there was Clara. This boss Luo had given her an extraordinary amount of attention. Moreover, he had done it very clearly. How did this disguised personality's acting suddenly become so bad? Chapter 461. Manager Shah fell deeper and deeper into the trap of his own logic, but he felt the entire world brighten up. In his days, he actually felt a sense of accomplishment of grasping the pearl of wisdom. He even took the initiative to probe. Boss Luo, are you familiar with the BHD group? I like them quite a bit. Luo Nin had learned these words from Yidonglu. He spoke very casually, but Manager Shah was moved to tears. He had finally found a seemingly reliable entry point. With a topic of conversation in a familiar field, Manager Shah's breathing and heartbeat gradually calmed down. At the same time, he began to do his best. Although this girl group is a bit more experimental in nature, they actually have a lot of potential. Their singing, dancing, and appearance are top-notch among the few batches of people the company has nurtured. The rarest thing is that they have quite a bit of character. They aren't simply selling their public personas. They don't have any particular weaknesses aside from their small number. If they have a character like Boss Luo supporting them in the future, it would be hard for them not to become famous. Luo Nan's gaze returned to Manager Shah's face. He felt like he was looking at a brothel keeper with a silver tongue. Manager Shah responded with a humble smile. Or should he say that everything went smoothly? Once he found the right path, even the verification that he couldn't get through would be no problem. Manager Shah let out a breath of relief, but he raised his mind. This was a gamble. He struggled a few times in his mind, but he finally gritted his teeth and got to the point. Boss Luo, I had eyes but failed to recognize MT Tai. You can scold me if you want. Speaking of which, my position is low and my sockets are shallow. I nearly missed out on a character like you. You are a magnanimous person. You will certainly give me a chance to make up for it. Luo Nin looked at him coldly, not saying a word. Manager Shah summoned up what little courage he had left. He raised his left hand, doing his best to stop it from trembling. A virtual screen lit up, displaying the words Invitation Privileges. This privilege identification code is an entrance ticket to an event. I know that it's easy for Boss Luo to go to this sort of place, but the channels are different. The resources you enjoy are different as well. Luo Nin didn't immediately take it. He just responded absent-mindedly. Is this the one he Donglu wants to torment? It had to be said that torment was an excellent word. Manager Sha nodded incessantly. Luo Nin chuckled. Your resources are just these before your eyes. I know that BHD is led by Hai Jing. Of course, there's also Mountain Creek. Manager Sha was a bit surprised. Boss Luo knows Mountain Creek. Yeah, the lead singer and drummer are impressive. The lead singer, Imoya, and the drummer, Shui Yi, were two great beauties. Moreover, they were the domineering type. They were not old, but they were quite philanthropic. Manager Sha didn't care about anything else. He made promises and the like. No problem at all. Really? Hai Jing is very protective of Shangxi, right? You know that too? Manager Sha was really excited. To tell you the truth, there will be a major change in the company in the near future. Whether or not Hai Jing can keep its rice bowl is still uncertain. Halfway through his sentence, his heart suddenly stopped. Wait, what am I saying? This boss Luo is obviously related to Hai Jing. He is most likely an acquaintance. Am I crazy? Luo Nan's voice entered her ears during her moment of panic and bewilderment. Is Mrs. Halder really going to withdraw completely? When these words entered his ears, Manager Sha shuddered again. Not only did this boss Luo know about the financial group behind Mingtang culture, he even called Madame Halder by her name. It must be known that he was a mid-level employee of a subsidiary company. It was only by chance that he found out about the true background of the financial group and the name of the true big boss. Even if Madame Halder's influence in Xia City was like a faded flower, knowing was knowing, and her attitude was still this casual. This was F*King level. Manager Sha's entire body was trembling. Excitement and fear coexisted. Under the surging emotions, the worries that had just leaped out, as well as the thoughts and consciousness that he couldn't figure out, were all drowned out. His thoughts grew more and more fuzzy. He really wanted to have a good chat with Boss Luo. Unfortunately, this sort of matter wasn't something he could comment on. Right now, he could only smile foolishly. Luo Nin scanned the words on the virtual screen once more. Finally, he raised his hand. Manager Sha was instantly struck with happiness when she saw this action. She wanted to move her hand over, but her arm was stiff. She could only use her other hand to support herself and carefully stick her wristbands together. Half a second later, the screen of Luo Nan's wristband lit up, revealing a classic DNA double helix structure diagram. Soon, the double helix structure scattered into thousands of meaningless numbers, piecing back together to form a disc-shaped diagram. 3 seconds later, it faded away. Manager Sha stared fixedly at the screen of Luo Nan's wristband. She let out a long sigh of relief when she saw the garbled diagram appear. She subconsciously groaned, then laughed in spite of herself. It's past. It's past. Luo Nan's face was expressionless the entire time, but his ears jumped a few times. The hexa ear hidden deep within his ear canal transmitted a message the moment the screen of his wristband lit up. It was the intelligent voice of the psychic wave network. Serial number 5357. It has been detected that there is an external reading operation on your social privileges record. The operator is the SCA Supercomputer Level 2 AI, Rank 9. According to the confidentiality regulations, priority is given to data protection. During the protection period, you can choose 1. Unblock after detecting the danger level. 2. Perform multiple levels of encryption. 3. Carry out data camouflage. All of your operations will be recorded in a copy for future review. If the selected operation is forcefully terminated, please contact the relevant person in charge. The intelligent voice ended, and the verification happened to pass. Luo Nin shook his hand, as if he had gained something. Outsourcing verification services to the SCA. This is quite a high-end atmosphere. A thought flashed through his mind, and his gaze shifted to meet Manager Shaw's. He nodded lightly. You've worked hard. 2 minutes later, the door to room 5621 opened, and Luo Nin walked in with his head lowered. Baiyu immediately leaped up and asked, You're back. Are you all right? Did he make things difficult for you? What? Butcher. Cough. I mean, did Manager Shah do anything to you? Luo. Nen shook his head. He just wanted to know the ins and outs of the situation. He didn't make things difficult for me, knowing that Brother Hai Jing brought me in. When the three members of the BHD group heard this reply, their eyes had the expression, keep bragging. Bai Yu wanted to ask more questions, but she was pulled back by Shui Yuan. She whispered, since it's already in the past, don't get to the bottom of it. There's no harm in asking. Clara pulled her back as well. Men care about their faces. What if we get lectured? No, since we already got lectured, it would hurt our pride to talk about it. Bai Yu turned her head and saw that Luo Nan had returned. He found a corner and sat down. His head was lowered, and he had a rather dejected appearance. She hesitated for a moment and finally decided to change the topic. Hey, didn't want to go visit them? They're busy right now. Luo Nen used his mental senses to observe the progress of Moya and the other's practice as he conversed with Manager Shah. He knew that the rare resting window had already passed. He could only wait for the next one. It was almost lunchtime. Luo Nan continued to lower his head after dealing with Bai Yu. Actually, most of his attention was still locked onto Manager Shah. Manager Shah's life sketch was dim and lightless in comparison within the resplendent, living starry sky. Its structure was very simple. It was nothing more than a few lines of starlight. However, if one focused on it and continued to permeate it, one would be able to see a bit more information. In a certain sense, the life sketch was just a window leading to the mysteries of the body and mind of others. One needed to do further observation and the corresponding coding and decoding work in order to obtain more detailed information. The Wraith Sign was an expert in this field. It was a demon that specialized in peeking at the minds and minds of others. Its incomparably powerful instincts were enough for it to do many inconceivable things. In comparison, even though Luo Nan had gone through a period of study and grasped some basic knowledge of the mental side, what he could do was very limited. However, Manager Shah was an ordinary person. His abilities were overflowing, right? Right now, Manager Shah was in a bit of a daze. He walked in the hallway, swaying back and forth. He bumped into a few people who greeted him along the way, but they were at a loss. His mental state was quite bad. The mental attack just now interfered with the material plane. It squeezed the outer medial temporal lobe of the hippocampus and part of the cortex. There shouldn't be any problems with the operation. Papercut said that this method can destroy the target's short-term memory. Could it be that the attack process was too intense and the aftermath damaged the hippocampus? Maybe I should have used interference from the beginning, blocking the nerve signals. Luo Nan slowly pondered over Manager Shah's current state in conjunction with his life sketch. His goal was very simple. He wanted to obtain more information from this person while preventing others from discovering anything strange, exposing his existence and inclination. Right now, the ones who were more likely to obstruct his goal were undoubtedly He Donglu and his group. Since they were all in this building, Luo Nan reluctantly monitored them for a period of time. Just like right now, the bodyguard Old C, whom he had met once before, had returned. According to his current pace, he could just meet Manager Shah face to face. Manager Shah was currently in a dazed mental state. How could he hide from others? Turn a corner. Luo Nan's consciousness probed through the window, giving Manager Shah a new stimulation. Manager Shah was still muddle-headed. He just subconsciously moved his legs, took 2 quick steps, and circled around the corner. The elevator door opened, and Old C walked out. The long corridor was completely empty. He didn't detect anything out of the ordinary. He hurried to the room where He Donglu was residing. On the way, Old C passed by a corner that a certain someone had taken a step ahead of him. It was just that he didn't notice it. Manager Shah stood blankly behind the soundproof door in the corner, facing the empty room. How'd I get here? Manager Shah blinked his eyes. He just felt dizzy, as if he had just experienced a nightmare. That's right. He really did experience a nightmare in the elevator. Hey, what happened next? It seemed like it was resolved. Room 5621. Luo Nan's head was still lowered as he looked at his open palm. His naturally slightly curled 5 fingers gently gathered the air, but he seemed to be able to feel some sort of marvelous tension. It was like he was gathering an incorporeal soul. The information that came from Manager Shah's life sketch was scattered and subtle. It involved consciousness, memories, emotions, and many other most precise and complex functions. And all of this was in the palm of his hand, allowing him to fiddle with it. Chapter 462. Luo Nen had never used this much strength on an ordinary person before. The information Luo Nan had gathered was quite complicated, but he was confident that he could weave a set of memories that had never existed from Manager Shah within a day or two if he were to continue experimenting layer by layer. As for whether it was logical or not, it depended on the ability of the director and screenwriter, and nothing else. If this method was used in actual combat, it would probably be the legendary illusion technique. He remembered that he had heard of a similar method in his supplementary lessons. He just didn't know if it would still be effective against an ability user. Aside from Manager Shah, there was another group of people that Luo Nan was paying attention to. It's he Donlo's attendance A, B, C, D, maybe it's 1, 2, 3, 4? Anyway, the bodyguard didn't look like a bodyguard, and the driver didn't look like a driver. They were dressed very casually and looked like artists. In the end, Luo Nan was able to guess 30 to 50% of what they were here for, combined with Manager Shah's description. That group of people had already been brought downstairs by Old C, out of the Tonghui building and away from the plaza area. At this time, they were already 10 kilometers away, a straight line distance of about 12,000 meters. Such a distance had indeed exceeded the radius of Luo Nan's omnidirectional observation of the material plane. However, if they were to start from the living starry sky and lock onto the target to carry out a partial detection, it was still too early. It wouldn't be a problem for them to travel another 10 kilometers. Luo Nan was certain that Manager Shah would not be able to dig up anything new for the time being. So he split a portion of his energy to lock onto this group of people. The group of followers were ordered to keep their mouths shut by Old C, and all of them were confused and depressed. Now that they had finally reached the so-called safe distance, how could they hold it in any longer? They all opened their mouths and laughed. Luo Nan was unable to listen for a time, so he simply activated the Hexa-Year's response transfer function to record all of this information. He would sort out later. Now, he was more concerned about the consciousness, memories, and emotions of these followers. The lackeys were all ordinary people like Manager Shah. Luo Nan rarely studied these subjects due to various considerations in the past. Even if he did observe them, he would do so in a way that would not affect the target's normal life. However, through his experiments with Manager Shah, he realized that there was quite a bit of knowledge in this, especially when compared to ability users. He could see even more subtleties. Manager Shah was the first experimental subject, and these people could be considered experimental subjects 2, 3, 4, and 5. They could gather information and conduct research on the mental side at the same time. Luo Nan pondered deeply. He used the external neuron to open the built-in software. He created a new notebook and prepared to make some experimental records. At this moment, someone patted his knee. "Can you raise your head? You're not going to cry, are you?" Baiyu half knelt in front of Luo Nan. She moved her head closer. She was both concerned and gossipy, but this little girl clearly didn't realize what it meant to go overboard. Doll! The team leader of the Snow Garden Academy felt a sense of responsibility as he grabbed Baiyu by the neck and dragged her back. Clara came over to help and whispered in her ear, "What are you talking about? Stop, stop, stop. I'm dying." Baiyu was strangled to the point where her eyes rolled back. Her two legs kicked wildly, and she was caught off guard. She kicked the high heel on her right foot away, sending it flying straight for Luo Nan's skull. "Aya!" The BHD group cried out in alarm. And in the next instant, Luo Nan reached out with his hand. 3 fingers grasped the back edge of the shoe, leaving only his index finger to hook. He straightened his arm and pulled away. At the same time, he raised his head and looked at the trio who were huddled together. No athlete's foot, right? Impossible. Baiyu's face immediately turned red. She didn't know where she got the strength to break free from her team leader's grip. She hopped over on one foot and snatched the shoe away. But because she used too much strength, she nearly bumped into Luo Nan. She had to use her elbow to support herself against the wall in order to maintain her balance. In this position, if Luo Nan were to straighten his back a bit, his head would likely bump into her rather large chest. And if he were to remain motionless, his gaze would be level, and he would be able to see the snow-white waist exposed by the stretch of her back. There was also the waistline of her vest. Luo Nan felt a bit of envy. He had been cultivating with Gym Master Shio for a period of time, and he had received the reverse nourishment of soul strength. His body was strong and tenacious, far surpassing that of an ordinary person. However, the internal cultivation technique did not focus on the sculpting of muscles. He had yet to train into a clear line of abdominal muscles. He still looked thin and weak on the surface. Bai Yu was young, and her body leaned towards the voluptuous type. Clearly, she had put in quite a bit of effort to train to this degree. Since he was envious, Luo Nin couldn't help but give her a few more glances. His eyesight was good. He could clearly see that a layer of red had already appeared on Bai Yu's snow-white belly. Oh, the little girl was shy. Of course, Bai Yu knew how awkward her current position was. She put on her shoes in a standard flustered manner and retreated in a sorry state. She nearly sprained her ankle. Fortunately, Shui Yuan caught her from behind. Thoughts of a completely new direction fluctuated intermittently. Beautiful youthful limbs moved closer and farther away. The situation had changed in succession in a short few seconds. Luonin could not help but sigh. Bai Yu had become extremely sensitive right now. What were you sighing for? Shui Yuan and Clara had already given up all hope for Luo Nan to be able to ask such a stupid question. Luo Nan could feel that the little girl had lost her mind from embarrassment and anger. He didn't want to make things difficult for her, so he casually made up a reason. I'm a bit disappointed. I originally wanted to use the credit of running errands to get an autograph from Shi Wei. But in the end, my lunchbox was taken away, and I even ran into that manager Shaw. Bai Yu no longer dared to speak. Clara was a bit displeased with Luo Nan's bullying of her sister. She curled her lips and said, "You want an autograph, and you say you're not familiar with the entertainment circle?" Luo Nan spread his hands. "My cousin is crazy about her. An autograph can be exchanged for at least 2 sumptuous meals. There's no hope now." Clara deliberately teased him. She flicked her hair out of habit and even gave him a coquettish look. "We'll sign it to you, but in another 10 years. Pooh, pooh, pooh. In another year, maybe it'll be worth a lot of money. It won't be a problem to make your brother, and you confused. Really? Are you sure?" Cat Eyes, who had been brewing tea in the lounge this entire time, finally came out. She held a bamboo tea tray in one hand and walked straight to Luo Nan's side to sit down. Her movements were quite skillful as she sat down. The tea tray spun horizontally, but the small and exquisite teapot and teacups on it were all stable and proper. Not a single drop of water came out. It was as if she was performing acrobatics. The gazes of the group shifted. Luo Nan was fine, but the BHD trio and Yuqin gasped in surprise. Claire was a bit emotional. "If I had this level of balance and body control, I would apply to the Auckland Academy of Performing Arts right now. I would be an artist when I graduate." Cat Eyes gently and dexterously put down the tea tray. She shot a glance at them. "Don't change the subject. Barbie, since you said that you can make the boss confused, then you guys go prepare and give it a try." The BHD trio were all stupefied. It took quite a while for Clara to understand. "I'm just saying, it's fine as long as I'm serious. The break time is over. Let's do the last adaptation exercise before lunch. You guys didn't have an audience of the opposite sex before, so you guys weren't able to get good feedback. But now there's a certain someone here. At least the age matches. He's clearly an entertainment illiterate. It's fine as long as he's a normal man." Cat Eyes turned her head to ask Luo Nan after she finished speaking, "Boss, are you all right? Get lost. Then let's begin." Cat Eyes poured a cup of tea down her throat and sighed in satisfaction. "You guys have 1 minute to clean up the area." The BHD trio immediately turned into a chaotic mess. Luo Nan watched Cat Eyes drink tea, thinking that he would be able to get the last treatment. He never thought that Cat Eyes would place the tea tray on the other side of her body. She even called out to Yuqin. You get a cup too. Mr. Luo, there are only 2 cups. He definitely has to display his style. Then I'll go get some refreshments. He won't have any tea. He'll choke to death. Choke your sister. Luo Nin used a fierce gaze to gouge out Cat Eyes, but she leaned against his shoulder in an extremely intimate manner. She giggled and tilted her head. What were you doing just now? There was no need for Luo Nin to hide anything from this believer of his who had a deep tendency to self-destruct. He simply described the process of his research. He also wanted to share his experiences. I've never tested this sort of technique on an ordinary person before. I tried it out today. It's quite easy to get used to it. In the past, I'm an expert in long-range sensing. I'm not a mind excavator. There should always be a comparison between ability users and non-ability users. Luo Nan's gaze unconsciously glanced at Cat Eyes as he spoke. If you want to talk about test subjects, there's an ideal one here. Are you thinking about this? I'm saying, did you know that the BHD group is also a test subject? I just heard Director Shaw mention it. Excellent. Now you can experience it for a bit. The prelude to the music rang out. The 3 members of the girl group laughed as they gathered together. They each took their positions. Some were squatting, some were standing, and some were raising their heads slightly. Although the postures they adopted were all different, they had all gone through thousands of tempering. They were the most outstanding and most moving postures. Their gazes were different from the sculptures. The first thing they did was focus on the audience, which was Luo Nan. The 3 beautiful and cute girls cast their gazes over at the same time. They hooked their gazes and hooked Luo Nan's soul. Luo Nan's heart thumped. The dynamic dance music had already begun. As the captain, Shui Yuan's singing was very solid. Her enunciation was clear, and there was a bit of a metallic sound to it. However, Luo Nin couldn't hear what she was singing clearly. The 3 youthful bodies swaying before his eyes dazzled his eyes. The song and dance of the BHD group didn't have any artistic qualities, but every movement of theirs displayed youthfulness and dynamism. Well, in fact, it just highlighted the beauty and figures of the girls. Only after Luo Nan recovered from these direct impacts did he notice the lyrics, the song, the singing skills, and the characteristics of each member's temperament. Luo Nan really was unable to shift his eyes away. Unknowingly, there was an awkward feeling of dryness spreading throughout his body. The feeling was especially intense in certain areas. Cat Eye's voice cut in at this time. Do you see the problem? Luo Nan wanted to speak, but he was unable to say anything in the end. He could only shake his head awkwardly. Cat Eyes raised an eyebrow, and the topic of conversation changed in an instant. Tisk TSK. You only have one good point. Luo Nan glared at her. He didn't try to conceal it. This is instinct, but I'm not a beast. Huh? Before his voice fell, Cat Eyes clearly blew a breath of air into his ear. The warm, itchy, and numb feeling radiated to his entire head in an instant. What accompanied it was a low and hoarse laughter. If you're worse than a beast, then you're really done for. This was right under the eyes of others. Luo Nan was shocked at first, but then his fury wrapped in restless emotions and burned all the way up. What the hell are you doing? Chapter 463. Since Cat Eyes and Luo Nan were shoulder to shoulder, she slid down Luo Nan's chest the moment she curled up. Her bent elbow struck a vital spot. Luo Nan's instinctive reaction had yet to subside, but he only furrowed his brows at Cat Eyes' more stimulating actions. He pushed Cat Eyes away. You can see a psychiatrist. Let's go together. Cat Eyes did not care what pose Luo Nan wanted to take. Her attitude was relaxed, as if she was joking with a close friend. However, the words that came out of her mouth were extremely strange. Did you know? Most of the awakened ones who were still in puberty rarely suppressed themselves. Whether it was psychologically or physically, they had strong stimulations and needs. This was the norm. But now, the problem is you can still make it physically, but psychologically, it's a little strange. She didn't give Luo Nin a chance to refute. Her eyeballs shifted to the other side, and she pointed at Yuqin. For example, you should know that, smart girl. All you need to do is crook your finger, and she absolutely wouldn't mind using this sort of method to mend a relationship. That's enough from you. Awakened ones aren't born stallions, okay? Luo Nan's words were like this, but his eyes unconsciously shot a glance in Yuqin's direction. Right now, Yuqin's mind was clearly not on the song and dance. Though she was sitting upright and still, she would send a gaze over from time to time. She was paying attention to the atmosphere of interaction between Luo Nan and Cat Eyes. Are you tempted yet? Cat Eyes stared fixedly at Luo Nan. It seemed that she would not give up until she detected the beast gene on Luo Nan's body. If I don't, then I'm a pervert? Yeah, a different kind of pervert. He's becoming more and more like some people. Some people? Although the statistics aren't complete, based on the current information, a similar situation would fit perfectly with those so-called gods and children of God who became extraordinaries a long time ago. Thank you for thinking highly of me. Think highly of me? As expected, you're the one who's feigning ignorance. Cat Eyes moved her face closer once more. Her voice became cold and hoarse. I don't believe that you can't tell, boss. I'm afraid of you. This time Luo Nan didn't push her away. Instead, he turned his face to the side. The distance between the two was so close that they could hear each other's breaths. People would believe it if they said they were kissing from a different angle. On the other side, Yuqin's breathing unconsciously quickened. Unfortunately, whether it was Luo Nan or Cat Eyes, neither of them had any thoughts of romance at the moment. Boss, you're too close. Cat Eyes' breath faintly carried the fresh fragrance of tea. However, the meaning behind her words was sluggish and oppressive. Shouldn't a god like you maintain a distance from your believers? Luo Nan sighed. I'm not a god, but it's a trainee. Therefore, you have to constantly ponder, practice, and experiment in order to improve. During this period of time, your followers, unfortunately, such as myself, will undoubtedly become your experimental subjects. You think too much. Luo Nan felt that Cat Eyes was suffering from paranoia. Right when he was about to have a serious conversation with her, he heard a bang. Bai and Clara, who had switched places in front of him, collided into each other. Their heads bumped into each other, and the sound was painful. The two women hugged their heads and squatted down. Bai was in so much pain that tears rolled down her face. If such a low-level mistake were to happen on stage tonight, the BHD group would probably be fighting for the headlines. However, Luo Nan and Cat Eyes' exchange postures in such a deranged manner was eye-piercing and heart-piercing. The fact that the BHD trio managed to hold on until now, before making a mistake, was because they were focused. Luo Nan pulled a taut face and turned his face away. Cat Eyes acted as if nothing had happened. She just clapped her hands again. Focus a bit. The AR effects on stage are even more chaotic. When the time comes, you won't even have the chance to hug your heads and cry. Continue. The three girls were still in a daze. They just instinctively swayed along with the music and sang along to the lyrics. 6 gazes revolve around Luo Nan and Cat Eyes most of the time. Cat Eyes was not demanding. She just said to Luo Nan, you see, BHD is just an experimental subject. Their appearance originated from the inspiration of the person in charge that lasted no more than 10 seconds. With this, as the skeleton, a team was built, and the 3 of them were found one after another. Right now, the experiment has just begun. The person in charge is already impatient to let them go on stage. Right now, their biggest problem is that they don't have enough people. For example, on tonight's stage, there will inevitably be a visual blank. Their singing skills are far from being able to support a stage of 1 million people. So, they can only use backup dancers or large amounts of AR images to fill in the blanks, creating a situation where the host is usurped. Failure is inevitable. Luo Nan raised an eyebrow. You're a teacher. Is it really okay to curse your own students? A wondrous smile formed on Cat Eyes' lips. This isn't the first time BHD has failed. Their debut song lacks any special characteristics. They haven't even made a splash. They've failed to make it onto the charts. They don't have any endorsements to this day. Mingtang culture's internal allocation of resources is also very stingy. In the next 1 or 2 years, The company will probably make adjustments to them in terms of positioning and personnel. They will try them one by one. But the patience of a businessman is always limited. They will either find the right path and become successful and famous, or their team will disintegrate and find their next home. Their path to stardom will be dim and even abandoned. Having said this, Cat Eyes turned her head to look at Luo Nin once more. You can say that you have some friendship with them. If you want to send them some words of encouragement, what should you say? Work hard. TSK. What in the world are you trying to say? I'm sorry, but the word work hard doesn't play a decisive role in determining their future. The one who truly controls them is Mingtang Culture's artiste department. They're the person in charge who single-handedly forged them. The direction drawn by these people is the most crucial factor in the survival or destruction of the BHD group. Boss, is this my future destiny? Luo Nin wanted to refute her, but just as he opened his mouth, the words stuck in his throat. Right now, he was looking straight into Cat Eyes' pupils. At the same time, he was grasping her life sketches and the structure of her body and soul. He gently plucked at the crisscrossing chains between them. In this state, even the slightest change in Cat Eyes could not escape his grasp. Could it still not be called fate? I've been flipping through nearly all the information related to the leaders of the Order for some time now. The growth of nearly every god is established on a foundation that goes against human nature and the common sense of society. Your understanding of the world is on another level. Cat Eyes reached out her hand and gently touched Luo Nan's cheek. Her seemingly gentle movements were actually more like touching a cold, hard, and dignified statue of a god. There was observation, there was fear, there was inquiry, but there was no emotion factor between people. The will of a god is immeasurable. Destiny is the same. But I can tell you clearly, boss, I don't want to meaninglessly sacrifice myself for those inconceivable reasons. If I can't escape in the end, I'd rather die by the hands of a normal man. I understand the cause and effect clearly. Luo Nin frowned at first. Several seconds passed before he suddenly broke into laughter. Was this a prayer? No, this was clearly revenge. This was a declaration of war. Cat Eyes had avoided the pointless, direct confrontation. Instead, she vowed to be a stumbling block on his path forward. She would do everything in her power to destroy his path to godhood. From the looks of it, her weapon was the so-called desire of human nature. Up to you. Luo Nin really wanted to emphasize once more that he never had any intentions of becoming a god. Cat Eyes' confrontation was meaningless. But there was no meaning in saying these words too much. His mind spun, and his train of thought traced back to the source. He suddenly understood why Cat Eyes suddenly felt fear in her heart. He flipped open his palm and gently clenched it twice. He spoke softly. It's because of Manager Shah, right? That person isn't a good person. Cat Eyes responded unhurriedly. There is no right or wrong in front of God. But there are also people who are close and distant, right? That fellow has ideas about BHD and even my sister. There's nothing wrong with me searching for information from his body. You're thinking too much. Anyway, doesn't your words prove that my research methods are very effective? The smile on Cat Eyes' face suddenly froze. Luo Nin laughed out loud and leaned his body back against the wall. He adjusted his posture slightly, making his sitting posture more comfortable. Then he closed his eyes. Even though Cat Eyes' supple and fragrant body was leaning to the side, it did not affect him from entering a state of concentration once more. The living starry sky unfurled. Manager Shah, lackeys 1, 2, 3, and 4 all made special marks. Luo Nin continued to ponder over the marvels within. He bluntly used Cat Eyes, a believer, as a reference. Time passed bit by bit, and Luo Nin really did abandon all the changes in the external world. It was only past noon when his biological clock, formed over the past few days, reminded him that he needed to do an afternoon class. Only then did he restrain his mind, adjust his breathing, and enter a meditative state. It was unknown when he had entered a state of sleep. But Luo Nin's subconscious was still operating, still observing the starry sky. Moreover, The research results of Manager Shah and other ordinary people unconsciously entered his knowledge judgment system, constantly refining the relevant conditions. In his days, Luo Nin had a dream. It was like he was shaking a sieve, but it was also like he was operating a laboratory centrifuge. He slowly separated and filtered the millions and millions of stars of the living starry sky from various levels, forming a fuzzy hierarchical division. There were some gaps that did not belong to the scope of this research, but he could fill them in. There were still a few levels above ordinary people and below the awakened. Some had just begun cultivating, like Xie Junping. Some had already cultivated, but had yet to awaken, like Worker Zhai. They could all be used as reference objects. Xie Junping was one of his believers. Worker Zhai had discussed the feeling of using the condensation ring to accelerate the awakening with Xie Junping many times during this time. The relevant information was ready-made. It was just that Luo Nan rarely considered using the hierarchical division method to carry out the division. Actually, the train of thought was ready-made. Wasn't the framework of the social format just like this? In the past, Luo Nan only looked above. He never looked below. Now, there were finally layers upon layers of stairs that slowly extended down from the suspended region. Oh, there was also the technique of distinguishing the root receptacle, root nature, and root trigger taught by Gym Master Xiao. It was extremely appropriate to use it here. Many subtle details could be seen. Gradually, the void was divided into layers, and the stars returned to their positions. Although the overall structure was still rough and chaotic, there was a vague distinction between the various stairs. After all, the differences between ordinary people, non-awakened ability users, and awakened were quite obvious. It was practically impossible for a situation of confusion to occur. Luo Nan's mind shook, and he instantly woke up from his half-asleep state. His eyes opened. Chapter 464. Their gazes met, and the other couldn't help but narrow his eyes. He shifted his upper body slightly and frowned. You have a fierce gaze. You must have gotten into a lot of fights in the dojo recently. Emoya. Luo Nin recognized his sister. He then looked at his wristband. It was already 1:45 a.m., very close to the appointed time for breakfast. Where's your manners? The distance between the two was too close. Luo Nin still dared to call her by her name. Emoya reached out her hand to pinch his face out of habit. Though Luo Nan had lowered his head to look at the time, he nimbly tilted his head to avoid the attack. Then he relied purely on the strength of his waist and legs to stand up in this extremely narrow space. Jumping out of Emoya's torment domain. Emoya's eyes lit up. You're like a living monkey. You've grown capable. I'm all right. Luo Nan curled his lips. If it weren't for the fact that he was far too familiar with the aura of his family, and that Cat Eyes, Yuqin, and the others had stayed a safe distance for a long time by his side, leading to his lack of vigilance, Emoya wouldn't even have had the chance to get close to him. Also, thank you for your contact lenses. Luo Nin wasn't prepared to get entangled with Emoya over the issue of sibling status. He looked around and saw that Hai Jing was here as well. He raised his hand in greeting and said casually, "Are you done with practice?" Hai Jing chuckled. "Which one are you talking about? Do you want to watch me sleep?" Luo Nin suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. He turned his head and saw the BHD trio. Shui Yuan had her head buried in her clothes. Clara was admiring her nails, and Baiyu was leaning against the enormous wall mirror. She stared blankly at the ceiling. It was unknown where her mind had wandered off to. Though the things they did were all different, there was one thing that was extremely synchronized. No one paid attention to Luo Nan. The atmosphere within the practice room was clearly low. Not good. He had offended someone. That's right. Not only was he flirting with the instructor in front of the gorgeous and dynamic song and dance, he could even openly sleep. What did he think of the three young and beautiful girls? Even if she doesn't hold a grudge, she still has to sort out her emotions, right? Luo Nin wanted to give a few words of explanation, but he discovered that he was simply unable to speak. He wanted to save the millions and millions of citizens of Xia City and prevent them from being harmed by the mutant virus. This was a great and honorable reason, but he needed people to believe it. There was no other way. Luo Nen could only choose the simplest and crudest method. I'm going out to make a call. Making a phone call was an excuse, but contacting Peony was a matter that could not be delayed. Luo Nen activated Ink's perspective as soon as he walked out the door. He determined Peony's position. The other side seemed to be the lobby of some high-class restaurant. Ink couldn't enter, so he could only see Peony's back through the street view glass. The latter was sitting peacefully on the sofa in the lobby waiting area. At this hour, was he taking a nap after the lunch? Luo Nen didn't think too much about it. He directly transmitted the information. Suspected target discovered. Location outside Becky's coffee house on the west side of the plaza. Peony clearly leaned back and shot back with annoyance. Mr. Partner, I'm on a date. I'm going to see my family, okay? Forget it. Maybe this is God's will. Say it again. Where is the target? Luo Nen saw that Peony didn't seem to be joking. He could not help but hesitate. Did I really disturb you? Then let's wait. Don't waste time. If you have something to say, say it. Peony took a deep breath, stood up, and looked around the hall. She seemed to still be reluctant to leave, but in the end, she still chose to walk out with large strides. Perhaps it's fine to follow Mr. Ink, right? An enormous crow flew across the plaza. It was quite eye-catching. Fortunately, Luo Nen's target was in the outer perimeter. There were many people in the plaza, and the environment was complex. For the first time, he explained a few characteristics of the target in advance. Female, early 20s. She was a brown long windbreaker. She should be a university student in the parade. There are quite a few people around her. She might be drinking right now. Her emotions are quite agitated. Peony walked forward as she listened, but her feet suddenly stopped in the end. She's in the third stage of infection in the parade? That's a ticking time bomb, okay? I said it. It's just a suspected target. She shouldn't be in the third stage. Not yet. It's not like she's a mutant. You're saying that she's in the second stage? The suspicion in Peony's words could be clearly heard even from 2 kilometers away. I'm not sure, but it's really hard to classify this person. Luo Nen didn't explain further because he had been out on the phone for too long. Haijing opened the door and stuck his head out to remind him. You lock onto the target first. I have a bit of situation over here. I'll contact you later. Okay, I'll contact you when I'm in place. Peony originally wanted to contact Trigate Security, but she put it aside for now. She prepared to observe and make a judgment. I hope it's not a momentary misconception. If there's no doubt about it, I support you in starting a new research topic. When that time comes, I can call you Professor Crow. Luo Nen responded in a bad mood. I'll take your auspicious words. He temporarily cut off the connection and returned to his room. Haijing laughed a bit apologetically. We're going out to eat. We're going to move now. On the other side, Emoya had just ended her call. Her expression was gloomy. She looked like she had something on her mind. She recovered her usual carefree and confident attitude when she saw Luo Nen return. You're out of luck today. The beautiful woman I wanted to introduce to you isn't coming. Shui has something to do as well. She won't be participating in this event. The number of beautiful women has decreased by 2/3. Luo Nen didn't pay much attention to the first half of Shui's words, but he was a bit surprised that Shui wouldn't be going. Shui was the drummer of the Mountain Creek Band. She was a band member whose popularity was second only to Emoya. They were about to rehearse. Was she going to act alone? Haijing also laughed. I originally wanted to invite Teacher Cat Eyes and Miss Yuqin to come, but they need to accompany BHD to make some final adjustments. Luo Nen's eyebrows jumped. He turned to look at Cat Eyes. Cat Eyes acted as if nothing had happened. She sent him a smile. Her intentions were quite subtle. An afternoon nap is very important. You can also do yoga in the meantime. Yuqin also said that she would accompany a friend. She wouldn't be joining in the fun. As for the trio from BHD, they were excluded from the very beginning. After all, they were still half-grown children. Their stage experience was far inferior to that of Emoya, who had been struggling in the underground circles for many years. That being said, Luo Nen discovered that he seemed to have overestimated the Mountain Creek Band a bit when they arrived at the restaurant and the banquet began. The banquet started at 2 o'clock. The atmosphere was quite average. The participants were probably pondering about tonight's performance. They were a bit unsatisfied with the food. Mountain Creek was the lowest of the 5-member bands. The lead singer and rhythm guitarist, Emoya, and the drummer, Shui E, didn't participate. These two beautiful women were the most popular. The other members were melodic guitarist, Wang Mo. He had taken over Emoya's position after she switched to lead singer. He was a professional and skilled musician, but he was a bit reserved. The bass player, Huang Xiangdong, was normally as passionate as fire, but he was also a big alcoholic. The keyboard player, Ma Lu, was the oldest member of the band. He was in the band back when Hai Jing was the lead singer. He was a founding member of the band. It was reasonable to say that Ma Lu and Hai Jing were old acquaintances, but he simply didn't pay attention to them at the dining table. He just silently ate and drank by himself. His expression was indifferent. As for the others, Emoyu was a bit absent-minded. It was unknown what she was thinking. Wang Mo's fingers were subconsciously tapping on the table. It was as if he was memorizing the fingering technique. Huang Xiangdong didn't touch a drop of alcohol. He just ate and ate in silence. The atmosphere grew more and more abnormal. Luonin knew that this sort of atmosphere wasn't good, but he was powerless to do anything about it. Plus, he was busy with other matters. He needed to seize every minute and second to communicate with Peony. He left the table to take a call halfway through his meal. Peony narrated the results of her observations. It's suspected that the target's mood is unstable. He's overly sensitive to external stimuli. He has physiological photophobia. His breathing and heartbeat rates are around 12% higher than a normal person's. The difference is significant. These are all evidence that supports your point of view. In theory, we can believe that the mutant virus has brought about an initial transformation and adaptation process to the target. However, if you want to be serious, there are other explanations. In comparison, the reasoning of it's better to kill the wrong person than to let the wrong person go is more convincing. How about increasing the sample? Did you discover anything else? Is this a blessing or a curse? Luo Nan's initial ranking of the living starry sky had indeed filtered out more than one target. He leaned against the wall of the corridor and operated his wristband. He used the electronic map to mark the locations of 3 other suspected targets. There was also a moving target, but it was a bit far away. He gave up on it for now. I'll send the map to the cloud space. You could just download it. It doesn't matter if you share it with Trigate Security. Speaking of which, when will their operation team arrive? Let's not think about the operation team for now. With the traffic control in the city center, it would be considered efficient if they arrive within an hour. I just hope that their relationship with the security department is as good as they're bragging about. Wait a moment. I'll take a call. Peony spoke a few simple words after the call connected. She quickly hung up and reported to Luo Nan, "This is good news. Sky Blue Security, where Long 7 is in charge of emergency support work in the municipal plaza area. He's currently bored to death, so he can help out. If there are special circumstances, he can also find people to support him." Sky Blue Security? It had been a long time since he had heard of this. Sky Blue Security was a specialized security company under Quantum Corporation. It was an important department that placed Deep Blue walkers. Over a month ago, this department combat team had a serious conflict with Luo Nan and Rue 1. Later on, they suffered from Jack's indiscriminate attacks, resulting in disastrous losses. Long 7, or Snake 7, was a member of this combat team. It must be admitted that Sky Blue Security had the strength. Their equipment was comparable to that of the military's elite troops, and their personnel were well trained. In a certain sense, they could be trusted as a support force. Yes, Luo Nan remembered that Yin Yonghua was once the person in charge of Sky Blue Security in Xia City. But then he was called back to Luo City for a debriefing. It was unclear who the person in charge was now. Luonan didn't care about Sky Blue, Earth Blue, or Quantum Atom. All he wanted was a cat that could catch mice. In any case, this wouldn't affect his pay at all. The only thing that would give him a headache was Trigate Security. Do as you see fit. Call me if there's any progress. Emoya cast a glance at him as soon as Luo Nan returned to the room. She seemed to be very interested. Girlfriend? Luo Nan was stunned for a moment. Then he shook his head. No, just an ordinary friend. Hai Jing laughed from the side. So it really is a girl. Emoya raised her hand to look at her watch. A total of 7 minutes and 20 seconds. You didn't dare to hang up on Mother's reprimanding call. This kind of call length should have broken the record. Luonin grimaced in pain. Emoya, that's enough. Could it be that the first thing you did after entering the pop music world was to become vulgar? Hai Jing continued to play the role of a supporting actor. Nanster is very popular with women right now. Not everyone can stay an entire morning in the BHD practice room. The two sang the same tune, not letting go of Luonan. Luonan was annoyed, but his heart stirred when he saw the relatively distant state of the others at the table. Chapter 465. If they really want to make a fuss about the atmosphere, Luonan would be in danger of being sacrificed for nothing. From the looks of things, the other three were not on the same page. Wang Yimou and Huang Xiangdong were preoccupied with their thoughts. They were not in the mood to play around. As for Ma Lu, who was engrossed in eating and drinking, the corner of his lips was about to overflow with ridicule. Luo didn't even sit down. He spread his hands towards the adulterous couple in front of him and made a helpless and innocent expression. Aren't your methods a bit too low? Luo didn't say it directly, but the meaning was clear. Emoya acted as if nothing had happened, but Hai Jing was a bit thin-skinned. He coughed lightly and said, Actually, with Nanzi's current age, it really isn't a big deal for him to know a few female friends. Even Annie Luo probably wouldn't mind. Yeah, at his age, a certain agent already has 3 fans. After this incident, Annie Luo really wouldn't mind too much. Ma Lu suddenly spat out these words, instantly silencing the private dining room. The stimulating effect was 10 times stronger than Emoya and Hai Jing's efforts. Even Wang Mo and Huang Xiangdong, who had been drifting away emotionally, raised their eyebrows. In the circle, the 3 fans had a specific meaning. They included face powder, grass powder, and sucking powder. Face powder referred to plastic surgery. Grass powder referred to having a relationship with a fan. Sucking powder went without saying. This kind of situation was not uncommon in the underground circle. It was also the atmosphere of the circle that Luo Shuqing had always hated. It was not news for anyone to be involved in these 3 things in the underground circle. However, if Ma Lu's revelation was true, then Hai Jing, who had always presented himself as a decent person, had such rich experiences back in the day. This made Luo a bit surprised. Then, was the relationship between Hai Jing and Mo unable to take a step further because of this past influence? Perhaps his family was also a hindrance. Of course, from his own standpoint, Luonin probably wouldn't have agreed if Hai Jing really had such a loose past. Back to reality, Ma Lu's shameless remarks were really too humiliating. The smile on Hai Jing's face was already stiff. Emoya was expressionless. Wang Yimou and Huang Xiangdong looked left and right. In the end, they both lowered their heads, wanting to continue pretending not to hear. But was there any meaning in this sort of self-deception? Hai Jing did not say a word. He got up from his seat and pulled the door open to leave. A cool breeze blew in from outside, making the air in the room flow a little. Uncle Ma, are you crazy? In the band, Huang Xiangdong was the youngest and the most impatient. Seeing that his manager had run away in anger, he couldn't help but slam his hands on the table and hold his head in disbelief. We'll be going on stage in 5 hours. What can't you say after that? Ma Lu chuckled. So, before going on stage, a certain manager is like the king of heaven, untouchable. I didn't provoke you. When he provoked me, you even used the corner of your shirt to blow your nose. This is a F***king personal grudge. Then how do you know that a certain agent signed us for the sake of fairness? Huang Xiangdong's face turned red, and he almost got up to smash the table. Wang Mo, who was beside him, saw that the situation was not good and rushed forward to hug him. Stop talking, stop talking. However, people were like this. The more they were pulled, the angrier they became. Huang Xiangdong struggled for a while, but to no avail. He turned on his berserk mode and pointed at Ma Lu's nose. Are you AF**king saint? You've been acting weird since the day you signed the contract. Didn't signing with a commercial company ruin your image? Uncle Ma, Master Ma, if you want to be the king of the industry, you should have said so earlier. If you have the guts, throw your pen away. If you have the guts, go solo. Bang! Emoya slammed the table. It was rare for her to get angry like this. The room was silent for a moment, and then there was another bang. The half-closed door was pushed open, and the waiter pushed in a dining cart. It was filled with beer, and there were at least 10 of them. Wang Emo was dumbfounded. Who wants it? Did you send it to the wrong place? I want it. Hai Jing walked back with a cold face. The rehearsal starts at 4 in the afternoon. It'll be your turn at around 5 or 6. According to the schedule, you must go back before 3:30 to prepare. Before that, we can have a good discussion. He threw a small metal box on the table. Hangover medicine for cowards. Ma Lu sneered. Do you think you're acting in a movie? Hai Jing looked over with cold eyes. Red Deer. You're Red Deer. Just look at who's talking about Red Deer. Back in the day, you know which bastard brought me a fan. Now, everyone knows who's feeling guilty and is worried about their reputation. What now? If you have the guts, say it. Do it, but if you don't have the guts to admit it? Ma Lu jumped to his feet. He looked like he was going to fight. Hai Jing didn't even bat an eyelid. He just opened the bottle and smashed it on the table. I'll say it like this. Aside from Emoya and Luo Nan, everyone else in this room is a F** king bastard. Some are arrogant, some are pretentious, some are unrestrained. He smashed a bottle of beer on the table every time he spoke. The foam wrapped around the alcohol spilled out. Surprisingly, no one in the room refuted him. Only Emoya chuckled. She took the initiative to reach out her hand and ask Hai Jing for a bottle of beer. Let's play in a band together. I'm not a good person either. Hai Jing gave her a deep glance and really did hand over a bottle of beer. He completely ignored Luo Nan. It doesn't matter if you're a rotten bastard or a bad bastard. Just hate yourself before you hate others. If you forget this, then use alcohol to wash your intestines. If you can't do it, then what's the point of playing rock and roll? Luo Nan still hadn't figured out the grudges between them, but he knew that a single bout of drinking wouldn't resolve the knot in their hearts. Luckily, they were all adults. They knew what they had to do and what they should do. It was enough. The reality was that a group of people shouted and fought fiercely. Then 2 of them really did drink until the world spun around them. They were dead drunk. Huang Xiangdong and Ma Lu were dead drunk losers. They were forced to drink hangover medicine. Emoya and the other 2 supported them as they moved forward step by step. The group of drunkards still had a performance at night. Even if they had a small reputation, they would become a laughing stock if they were caught by the media. For this reason, Luo Nan was the only one who hadn't touched alcohol after the banquet ended. He took on the task of scouting and guiding, leading the drunkards into a relatively secluded underground passageway. Luo Nan did this sort of task in a relaxed and happy manner. He had already planned out the optimal path to the Tonghui building within his sensing region. It was more powerful than any electronic map. So far, he still had the leisure to pay attention to the tracking of the mutant infection. Of course, he didn't forget about the distribution of the steps below the awakened. Peony communicated with him once more, explaining the current progress. There are 4 suspected targets. All of them are university students who came to participate in the demonstration. All of them are female. Their symptoms are all quite similar. There aren't any obvious differences. For the time being, we'll treat them as infected. From past data, this proves that the stage of infection they are in is subdivided. They are roughly in the same range. Then we can make another hypothesis. The time of infection and the source of infection they came into contact with should be similar. It sounds like there's some progress. There's no pattern to the distribution of their schools. They're from the eastern and western city districts. The same goes for their home addresses. 2 of them were born and raised in Xia City. The other 2 came to study abroad. This doesn't match with the Xiqing district, the Riverwood district, and the Forest Wall district that we previously focused on investigating. We haven't discovered any reasonable clues in terms of geographical location, which is also the domain of our early focus of work. So it's like this. Luo Nan was a bit skeptical when he heard this news. Did he make a mistake in his judgment? After all, the step distribution was a topic he had just begun to research. It was normal for a few mistakes to occur. Peony had a very confident appearance at this time. The 4 targets are all under close surveillance. At the same time, we're already digging deep into their social relationships. Geographical factors are meaningless. Let's research social factors. From a sociological perspective, they're all women. They are of similar age. They are beautiful. This similarity is a clue in and of itself. Overall, we believe in your professional abilities, Mr. Partner. Thank you for your trust. Luo Nin laughed in response. He recalled something. Oh, right. There's another suspect target aside from these 4 targets. She's been moving around the municipal plaza all this time. Since you have enough manpower now, you should monitor that person as well. The moving target never left Luo Nan's range of senses. Luo Nan observed her from a distance as he described her appearance. This is also a woman. She's around 16 or 17 years old. She shouldn't be a university student. She's been shopping with her friends. Oh, she's come out now. She's joined some sort of team. A parade. It's not a parade. I saw a support sign. It should be a fan of some celebrity. They know that there's a performance tonight, and they came to the plaza to support them. These fans have always been super organized. Luo Nan had become more experienced in this aspect after spending an entire morning with a BHD group. Peony's focus was different from his. She's also a woman? How's her appearance? She's quite decent. Above average. TSK. You really are a stalker. Why are you so sensitive to women? Speaking of which, I'm also a beauty. Do you want to meet? I said it before. It's just that I have a lot of eyes. Okay, whatever Mr. Partner says. I won't expose your nature as a shut-in. Hee. The 2 ended the call. Luo Nin shook his head. He had the feeling that Peony was using psychological profiling techniques on him. The more he interacted with her, the clearer his true image would become. With Peony's intelligence, could he really keep his identity a secret? Luo Nin didn't know why Her Majesty Empress would make such an unnecessary move. This situation was quite embarrassing. Luo Nin let out a breath of turbid air and turned his attention back to the back. Emoya and her group were still staggering as they walked. At this speed, it would be up to the blessings of the heavens to be able to return to the Tonghui building by 3:30. Oh, who's that? Luo Nin saw someone walk out from the underground passageway. The timing was perfect. The person just happened to be right in front of Emoya and her group. The person's gaze cut across the group of drunkards before finally stopping on Emoya's face. Though the person was blocking the path, it didn't look like he had any intentions of giving way. Instead, he took the initiative to speak. Emoya? This person should be familiar with Emoya and her group. Luo Nin could see that Emoya was startled for a moment before she happily responded. She didn't feel any sense of unfamiliarity. The middle-aged man's hair was sparse, but he looked very healthy. His body was lean and powerful, and there wasn't much fat on his face. When he smiled, his muscles and muscles pulled, forming long ravines. He wasn't ugly, but he had a grave and stern aura to him. Could he be a soldier? Luo Nin subconsciously used his mental senses to scan the middle-aged man's life sketch. Then he saw Chapter 466. Yes, emptiness. Luo Nin's consciousness wandered within the living starry sky, sweeping across the densely packed stars. However, he was unable to find the structure of the middle-aged man's life sketch. Not even the shrouding nebula that powerful people were accustomed to could be found. Luo Nin was unable to see anything that he could use as a reference. However, the middle-aged man was just a few hundred meters away, chatting with Emoya, Haijin, and Wang Emo. They talked about the performance in the evening and the style and characteristics of the Mountain Stream Band. From their words, it was clear that they were experienced fans of the music industry or even industry insiders. That's right. I can use my mental senses to interfere with the material plane, and I can clearly sense his vital signs. His breathing, heartbeat, and body temperature were normal. The physical body can be seen, but the spirit is nothingness? Luo Nin felt his blood run cold for a time. Is this fellow a human or a ghost? This was the first time Luo Nin encountered such a situation ever since he constructed the living starry sky. Back when he was at Fudong Great Dao's Frost River reality, He sensed President Ouyang's logic world. He sensed the long-distance clash between Her Majesty Empress Wu and the upper echelons of the Order of Justice, causing the starry sky to sway and nearly collapse. That was a real feeling. It was absolutely not an emptiness that he could not touch now. Luo Nan was stupefied for a few seconds before he suddenly came to a realization. Such a strange character was standing together with his sister. It was hard to understand what he was thinking. Without another word, he turned around and ran. Halfway through, he suddenly realized something and used the hexa ear to send a message to Qin Yikuan, who was not far away from him. Qin Yikuan transferred the image he saw to Qin Yikuan. Help me investigate this man. He's with my sister now. I'm on my way there. Also, I need help. Speaking to this point, Luo Nan recalled how Mo Ya had addressed the middle-aged man. He added, "This person's name is Luo Yuan. It's probably this sound, things that happened in a rush." Luo Nan's explanation was like a clap of thunder on the flat ground. It startled Qin Yikuan so much that he was in a complete mess. The exclusive security personnel, who had been slowly tailing them in the car, had their pleasant afternoon time come to an end. People jumped out of their cars one after another and ran wildly in Luo Nan's direction. Qin Yikuan was the fastest to arrive. He blocked Luo Nan before he could turn into the underground passageway where Emoya and the others were. "Mr. Luo, please let us handle this." Qin Yikuan didn't give Luo Nan the chance to refuse. He relied on his powerful arm strength to firmly control Luo Nan at the corner. At the same time, he ordered his underlings to split into two groups. One of the groups carried light weapons and quickly approached Mo Ya's position, locking onto the dangerous target. Everything had just been arranged when Luo Yuan suddenly smiled from Mo Ya's side. His gaze swept to the side to the rear. He was clearly pointing at the corner that was blocking Luo Nan and Qin Yikuan. Luo Nan used his mental senses to observe this detail. His heart skipped a beat, but he saw the middle-aged man bid farewell to Emoya. "I still have things to do today, so I can't chat much. I'll be leaving first. I wish you all a successful performance." This person shook hands with Emoya and the others one by one. Even Ma Lu and Huang Xiangdong, who were drunk and muddle-headed, were not spared. Then, he passed by them and went straight down the underground tunnel. Luo Nan and Qin Yikuan both let out sighs of relief when they saw this situation. Qin Yikuan immediately gave a more dependable order: follow him evenly. Don't act rashly. A few seconds after the order was issued, Mr. Luo Yuan turned into aisle for not far away and disappeared from most people's sight. The security personnel in charge of tracking reported he went up the escalator and entered the municipal plaza area. It's estimated that he has left a safe distance. Should we continue tracking him? Qin Yikuan glanced at Luo Nan. Continue. Connect to the surrounding surveillance. We need to confirm the time period before and after. I'll contact the branch and do my best to figure out his social identity as soon as possible. The last sentence was directed at Luo Nan. Luo Nan nodded slightly and let out a secret breath of relief. Due to the privacy of the living starry sky, Luo Nan couldn't say clearly why he suspected this person. He was worried that he wouldn't be able to explain himself. But clearly, he was overthinking things. With his current status in the society and his famed mental senses, Qin Yikuan and the other security personnel, from top to bottom, didn't question him at all. They even used the high-grade resources of the branch without the slightest hesitation. Soon, Luo Yuan's movement trajectory appeared on the hexaear. Actually, Luo Nan had locked onto him. Though the mental plane was empty and Luo Nan was unable to directly locate him, he could still indirectly monitor him through the surrounding personnel. Under everyone's gazes, Luo Yuan boarded a flying car that had been waiting for a long time outside the municipal square and slowly drove away. Luo Yuan didn't make any other contact during this time, and the latest surveillance results came out. This person had entered the municipal plaza area for around 20 minutes. He had been walking the entire time without stopping until he met Emoya and her party. It seemed that this person had come specifically to chat with Emoya and the others. He would leave after he finished chatting. Anyone could feel an extremely strong sense of purpose when they saw the movement trajectory organized by the security personnel. Luo Nan just felt a chill from the bottom of his heart. The actions of this Luo Yuan posed an immeasurable threat to him and even his family members. Luo Nan couldn't help but make a few deductions in his mind. The results made his scalp faintly swell. This sort of monster was empty on the mental plane. Most of Luo Nan's mental abilities became mere decorations. If they were to really fight, Luo Nan could count on very, very few methods. Qin Ikuan's expression was grave. I'll contact the military police outside and find a reason to interrogate them. Emoya and the others had already walked to the corner by now. They were a bit surprised to see Luo Nan and a stranger leaning against this place. Luo Nan suppressed the uneasiness in his heart and asked Emoya as if nothing had happened. I saw you talking to someone just now. Who's that? Oh, that. His name is Luo Yuan. We met at the Mantown Music Festival. He's an uncle with an awesome, smoky voice. He's especially good at seducing people. Wang Imo added. The expression of the wilderness minor tune is very strong. According to him, he can only get the taste out of searching for treasures and picking up girls in the wilderness all year round. The wilderness? Luo Nan and Qin Ikuan exchanged glances once more. This was even more troublesome. Were vagrants included? Qin Ikuan immediately gave an order to his subordinates. Search the vagrant database. Prioritize the area around Xia City. All information from the security personnel went through the psychic wave network. Outsiders wouldn't be able to find out. However, Qin Ikuan standing here was already very eye-catching. Emoya cast her gaze over. She was a bit puzzled. This is? Oh, Brother Qin is a friend I met at the Daoguan. Luo Nan's brain suddenly jammed when he spoke to this point. He could only throw the blame away. Luckily, Qin Ikuan's skill at throwing the blame was quite high. He had a calm smile on his face as he took the initiative to introduce himself. I'm Qin Ikuan. I met Nanster during an exchange at the Daoguan. I work for a security company. Our company is responsible for patrolling the area for the university students' demonstration today. Mo, you gave a simple introduction of the people here, and the two sides got to know each other. While they were introducing each other, the latest information regarding Luo Yuan came back. Luo Nan and Qin Ikuan didn't feel too good when they received the news. No one. How could there be no one? Yes, there are no traces of this person in the car. The driver is an employee of a regular car rental company. He doesn't know anything. He said that after the customer got off the car, he never came back. I feel like he's missing a piece of his memory. It's like he was swallowed by a ghost. The road that stopped Luo Yuan's flying car had already exceeded the range of Luo Nan's mental senses. Luo Nan was unable to directly sense the situation at the scene, but the information he received made his hair stand on end. Afterwards, Qin Ikuan requested his subordinates to investigate the surveillance, but there were no traces. That person really was like a spirit. He suddenly appeared and then disappeared. The situation was heading toward a serious trend. Luo Nan and Qin Ikuan exchanged opinions. On the plane of reality, Qin Ikuan was a complete opposite of his usual taciturn attitude. He faced Emoya and the others with a warm smile. I heard from Nanster that you guys are signed artists and public figures. The flow of people in front is getting bigger and bigger. Soon a group of students will pass by. It's inconvenient to continue like this. How about this? I'll open up a reserved safe passage. Everyone can pass through here. It'll save us a lot of trouble. Emoya and Hai Jing never thought that there would be such a good thing. They were a bit hesitant. Is that okay? No problem. It's our duty to avoid possible accidents. Qin Ikuan spoke a few words through his wristband in a dignified manner. Then he guided everyone into the closed and deactivated escalator. The deactivated escalator started operating once more as soon as they went up. Now Emoya and the others had no more doubts about Qin Ikuan's status and authority. Plus, they were very interested in the mysterious and hot-blooded Daoist career. Soon, everyone started chatting enthusiastically. Little did they know that many people were holding their breaths in rapt attention in this temporarily open safe passage. Some were so nervous that their palms were sweating. Everyone couldn't relax for even a moment before the fellow who called himself Luo Yuan re-entered the surveillance field of view. Luo Nan and the others returned to the Tongwei building in a strange atmosphere. Qin Ikuan couldn't follow them back in here. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to explain his identity. But the society was truly resourceful. Luo Nan had just said goodbye to Qin Ikuan and entered the private elevator when someone who called himself the deputy head of the building's security followed them. He wore a well-ironed uniform, and his gaze crossed with Luo Nan's. This deputy head had just gone for a morning run with Luo Nan 2 days ago. He was an ability user retired from the military. His name was God, and he was the deputy head of Luo Nan's security team. He and Qin Ikuan took turns taking care of Luo Nan's daily security work. Today was supposed to be an off-duty day, but considering that the situation in the municipal square was different from home and school, he rushed over to strengthen the security force. He was a responsible uncle. Although Hai Jing was one of the people in charge of Mingtang culture here, it was impossible for him to control the security personnel of the entire office building. He didn't care when he saw that there were no problems with God's clothes and authority. As the elevator went up, he asked a few questions about the situation of the underground passageway that led directly to the backstage. God answered fluently and gave him the contact number of the person in charge. Hai Jing had already saved it, but he was still very grateful.